Alright. Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined this seminar this morning on Ply Reporter's Facebook page. Ply Reporter is a 20-year-old publication focused on wood panel industry of India, popularly known as the voice of the trade. We believe and are always at the forefront of promoting and spreading awareness about new technologies, research, and best practices in this segment, and we are extremely glad to host this fantastic virtual seminar on wood protection practices and way forward, organized by IWST, or in other words, you can say the Institute of Wood Science and Technology. IWST is a premier research institute under the aegis of Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change under Government of India. IW has the national mandate of conducting research on wood science and technology, and it is also recognized as Center of Excellence in Wood Utilization. With a specialized team of scientists, the Institute has carried frontier research in wood identification, processing, wood composites, wood modification, wood protection, wood energy, wood quality assessment, and tree improvement. Today's session have been segregated in three broad sections with presentations and discussions on wood seasoning, preservation, and modification technologies. To start with, I would like to welcome Dr. K. Pandey, the head of Wood Processing Division from IWST, on screen. Over to you, Dr. Pandey.
Good morning to all. Respected Director IWST, Dr. MP Singh, distinguished participants from industries, research institutions, universities, and other organizations, my colleagues at IWST and colleagues at Ply Reporter. First of all, on behalf of the Director IWST, I welcome everyone for this webinar. This important webinar on wood protection practices way forward is a part of series of events being conducted by Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education, Government of India, under Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav, celebrating 75 years of India's independence. The program is co-hosted by Ply Reporter. We all know wood is a naturally available versatile material with broad range of indoor and outdoor applications. It is a good engineering and structural material because of good mechanical strength and other properties. It is a carbon neutral, renewable. It sequesters carbon during its production and locks it for long duration while in use. Preservative treatments and other processing further enhance carbon locking period in wood. The huge diversity in the properties among timber species make different species useful for specific use. The scarcity of the most of the conventionally used timbers like teak, deodars, rosewood, etc. has necessitated use of fast-growing plantation timbers. Unfortunately, most of the plantation timbers are susceptible to biological and physical degradation and require preservative treatments to increase their service life, particularly when used outdoors. Particularly, the sapwood of these species have a low durability. Wood material is highly susceptible to biodegradation because microorganisms, for example, fungus, termite, borer, etc., have specific enzyme systems capable of degrading these polymers into digestible units. So it needs protection against biodegradation. Secondly, all the constituent polymers of wood are hydrophilic in nature. That results in its dimensional instability. Wood changes dimension with changing moisture content, resulting in cell wall swelling and shrinkage depending upon the environmental conditions. So therefore, we need to protect wood against dimension instability. Another usual problem associated with wood during its outdoor application is degradation resulting from solar UV radiation. So you need to protect the wood against photodegradation. Therefore, wood needs protective treatment to enhance its service life. Basically, we need to protect it from environment weathering and biological degradation. Some of the traditional wood preservatives, such as chromated copper arsenate, CCA, which is a very effective preservative, are under threat because of the environmental concerns about leaching of the copper, chromium, and particularly arsenic into the environment. Therefore, currently there is lot of emphasis on the development and use of alternative, more environmental friendly preservative treatments. One of the effective and more environmental friendly method to enhance durability of timber is wood modification. Modified wood has high moisture resistance, it has good dimension stability, biological and weathering resistance, and is a good choice for outdoor application. With this background, this webinar is organized to discuss various wood preservative and wood modification technology. The presentations include topics on wood seasoning also. Seasoning or wood drying is one of the most important wood processing technique and is a first step for protection and value addition in wood. This will be followed by presentation and experience sharing on wood preservative and wood modification technology. At the end, we have a participant session for discussion, recommendation, experience sharing, and related issues. We request all the participants and wood industry representatives to particularly elaborate on technological and other issues industry is facing. This will help research organizations like IWST to focus and prioritize their research, their future research. I once again welcome all the speakers, all the participants and viewers of this webinar. We are extremely thankful to all the distinguished participants for accepting our invitation and sparing their valuable time for this important webinar. We look forward to receive your valuable inputs. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pandey. That was really informative. And with that, I would now like to welcome Dr. MP Singh, the director from IWST Bangalore, to share the introductory address with all our viewers.
Yeah, very good morning to all. Thank you, Dr. Pandey. On behalf of IWST, again extend a hearty welcome to all of you to join us in the celebration of Azadi Ka Amrut Mahotsav, celebrating 75 years of India's independence. Through this webinar on wood protection practices and way forward. It is indeed a great pleasure that we are discussing this topic in today's context. We all know that wood is the best material so far as the carbon footprint is concerned, so far as the carbon stock is concerned, and this provides a way out for the climate change mitigation to the humankind. In fact, if you see 21st century is witnessing sea changes in the environment and the climate profile of the globe, and all of us know that forests are the saviors and trees are the answer to this malady. In fact, the utilization of wood from the forest for commercial purposes in non-scientific way has been a major threat in the past for biodiversity conservation aspect, water and soil resources, climate, and on the subsistence of the people on this earth. So sustainability is the key factor as far as the utilization of wood is concerned. Even rationalizing the utilization of the available wood resources through appropriate technological intervention is among the today's essential priorities. There is a considerable pressure to reduce wood use through substitution of synthetic material, but these have often required far more energy to produce and are not renewable, and that is not the solution to the context. The solution lies in optimizing the processing, better storage and handling of the products, improved designs, and better methods for protecting wood from physical and biological degradation. Even our National Forest Policy 1988 that has envisaged that we will go for the substitution of wood, substitution of timber with other materials. Resultantly, we are having all our buildings with the alternative materials, iron, steel, plastic, which are not sustainable in the long run. So we have to come back to the sustainable way of life. A number of fast growing and short rotation timber species growing in natural plantation or the clona forest have been studied in India for various physical, mechanical, and anatomical properties to find their suitability in the different applications. So we have come a long way from 1988, and now we have the suitability indices for all these new species, short rotation crops for different potential usage for our various end usage. A good deal of research in the country has been devoted to find the appropriate technology for the value addition to this non-durable timber species. They include the studies on drying behavior and finding appropriate seasoning techniques for the plantation grown timbers, development and assessment of wood preservatives and their treatment techniques, chemical and thermal modification of wood and protection of wood from weathering. In India, through the Bureau of Indian Standards, has stipulated many standards for the wood treatment and protection. But there has not been much progress in the increased use of treated wood and wood products. So that is the challenge before us. These standards being recommended but not mandatory. So we have to encourage people into adopting these standards in their practice. That is why this seminar has been organized with a special purpose that we all think of the various seasoning and drying techniques and all the treatment, all the wood protection practices, and we think what is the way forward. In fact, that is why we have organized this workshop in such a way that we will have participants from the industry and we have the participant from the expert institute also. And we think that with the kind of support which we are getting from the different ministry, in fact, from the MSME ministry, they have a system of the common facility center. So we would like to encourage all the sawmillers, all the users of wood and the traders of the in timber to go for the establishment of common facility center, so that we have the wood protection treatments at one place and everybody can use it, and then we make a sustainable use of wood. Otherwise, what will be the impact is that we are, if we don't treat the wood, then we are always inclined towards the most durable timber, that is teak. And resultantly, this has really raised the demand of teak in the country. And we are the biggest importer of teak in the world, to the tune of, in fact, 10,000 crores we are importing teak from various countries. So we really need to look at the different species also, so that, but we have to follow the methods of the protection, and so that the durability of those other alternative timbers that is established for the consumers. So this whole exercise is towards the orienting and to sensitizing the traders, users, and all the stakeholders into going for establishment of the facilities for the wood protection in one place as a common facility center under the scheme of Ministry of Small MSME Ministry. So I really look forward to this workshop, that we all participate and we understand the all the nuances of this wood protection, and we follow it in a better way, so that we provide the sustainable solution to this most sustainable material in the world. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh. This session, I am very sure that this is going to be very informative for all the traders and all the people who are into the wood sector. It is going to be very informative for all of them. And now moving forward, the first segment of today's seminar is focused on wood seasoning technologies. And for that, we have two esteemed speakers with us, one of who is Dr. A.K. Sethi from IWST, who would be presenting on timber seasoning relevance and opportunities, followed by experience sharing on timber seasoning by Shree Sanjay Goyal, Shree Anil Kumar, and Shree Dwara Ramakrishna. I would like to welcome Dr. Sethi to first share his presentation. Sir, your mic is mute. You have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
But you need to speak a little louder.
Okay, sure. And I have just shared my screen. Whether my screen is still visible or?
It is visible and you're audible.
Okay, thank you. And good morning to all the participants who are attending this meeting on this online platform. In the present seminar, although it is on wood protection, but the first topic starts with wood seasoning and its relevance and opportunities. So, sorry. Okay. So in the context of wood protection, the seasoning is the most important and foremost steps while utilizing wood for a longer duration. As long as a tree is standing, it contains a huge quantity of water. And once the tree is felled, the same water becomes a problem for wood utilization. Hence, this water needs to be removed, because wood is a very good, it has all the inbuilt materials for sustaining any living organisms, particularly fungus and termites. It contains cellulose, which is a food, which on degradation can produce glucose, which is a source of food for the insects and fungus. Oxygen, of course, is plentifully available, and if there is water, then all three make this wood very, very conducive for survival of any organisms. So that's the reason wood can be degraded very fast if not protected properly. So while there are different options to protect the life of wood, so the best, one of the easiest way is to eliminate any one of these three requirements for survival of insects and fungus. So while food source cannot be eliminated, oxygen we cannot eliminate it. We can just stop it by putting some coatings. So the easiest way is to delimit the moisture availability. So if you can remove the, if you can restrict the availability of moisture to the in the wood, then we can prevent the wood from a lot of organisms. So removing the moisture, although it seems wood drying is very simple concept, but if you don't control it, it can lead to unserviceable material. So regulating the drying process is all about wood seasoning, and seasoning is there is a slight difference between when you talk about wood drying and wood seasoning. Anything can be dried, but at the end of drying, we are not sure what material we are going to get. It may be degraded or it may be good in condition. It depends on the wood material. So the when we talk about seasoning, we always control the drying process. So instead, so that the end product can be degraded to least possible extent. As far as the importance of seasoning is concerned, it has many advantages, both from the perspective of producers as well as consumers. From the perspective of producers, if you remove the moisture, it can help in shipping and handling cost, because instead of carrying the wood, if you don't season, instead of carrying the wood, you will be carrying a huge quantity of water from one place to other, which is of no use. But besides that, as far as application is concerned, dimensional stability is the important aspect which can be taken care of by wood seasoning. And seasoned wood is very, very less susceptible to decay, fungus, and attacked by insect, as I mentioned. So when you talk about wood protection, even 50 to 60% of the protection measures can be taken care of by just following the wood seasoning itself. And interestingly, most of the strength properties, they increase as we reduce the moisture content of the wood, and the thermal and electrical properties also gets improved. Most of the paints and varnishes, they last longer if you dry the wood, and because if you put all these finishes on the wet wood, the life of the finishes will be very very less. And properly dried timber can be cut to very precise size, because the dimension stability has been already ensured, so we can stick to our required dimensions, and it can be machined more easily and efficiently. And the parts can also be secured very precisely with the help of fasteners, adhesives, as well as bolts. And most of the drying degrades, like what we encounter during service, that can be minimized if we do the if we follow the wood seasoning practices before putting any wood into use. And the most important thing is, when you talk about wood preservation, most of the preservative treatment methods then require also very low moisture content in the wood. Hence, wood seasoning is one of the prerequisite for most of the preservative treatment, as well as fire retardant treatment methods. Then what is the, if seasoning is very very essential, then what is the optimum moisture level that we should follow? Because removing 1% moisture in the beginning, like when the tree is green, reducing the moisture from green condition to maybe 20-25% is not very energy intensive. However, if you go below 25%, for every percent decrease in moisture content, we have to put significant amount of energy. So if that is the case, then what should be the minimum value, so that we, requirements to which we can suggest for drying the timber? So this entire country has been divided into 4 zones, like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4. And these classifications are mostly based on the available, the prevailing relative humidity in those areas. So if the zone 1 suggests that the zone 1 in most of the areas in zone 1, the average relative humidity is less than 40%. So those areas like Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. In zone 2, the relative humidity varies. Average, this is not diurnal variability, it is the average variability for that particular area. So zone 2, the range varies between 40 to 50%, then 50 to 70, 67 in zone 3, and in zone 4, more than 67%. So what is the necessity of this zonation? If you don't classify this zone, and for example, if you want to use a wood in zone 4, then there is no need to dry timber to a very low moisture content, because if you dry it, again, it is going to achieve moisture from the surrounding. So we are putting huge amount of energy to remove the moisture, but again the energy gets wasted, because again the wood will be absorbing moisture from the surrounding. So if you just see the moisture content requirement in different zones, however, these are only for few uses, but for every application, there is a classification has been already done, and recommended moisture contents have been suggested. For instance, as we go from zone 1 to zone B, the lower moisture content regimes, the required moisture content regimes increases. Like from, in case of, if it is for agricultural implements, it's in zone 1 it can be 12%. When you go to zone 4, it can be 16%. So the same application, but if you are using in a different location, then the lower limit can be changed. So that will have a greater significance when you talk about energy saving. So there are different factors of wood seasoning. While the important factor is the wood itself, that is the material itself, but we have control over the other parameters which can facilitate drying. So when we talk about the material factors, they are nothing but the wood species, their initial moisture content, how the sample has been cut, and the material thickness, because thicker the material, it will be always difficult to dry. We don't have much control on all these aspects except material thickness, but when we have a specific end use, we don't have a choice for material thickness also. So species, that is the material is already fixed. We have only control over the processing parameters in during seasoning, that can be temperature, relative humidity, and airspeed. So these are the primary controlling factors what we always regulate in the drying kilns to have a as a better drying material. So as long as I mentioned that the species we cannot change, the material properties we cannot change. However, the species have been classified into different categories depending on their seasoning behavior. So they are classified as class A, class B, and class 3, depending on how easily or how how easily we can dry species. So depending on the refractoriness of the species to drying, uh, the species have been classified, and it's already been enlisted. So whenever we take any species for drying, the desired protocol may be followed. No need to develop the protocol. Every time, no need to develop the schedules. It's already there. But if you know the species, we can refer to the schedules, and we can follow the schedule practices, so that we can have a material with better properties with less degradation. But as I mentioned, that the external factors where we can control, but the combination of these three factors like temperature, humidity, and air speed, they can be very, very complicated if somebody wants to start a drying processes. So in order to avoid those complications, already seasoning schedules have been developed based on the species as well as the refractoriness. And there are 8 schedules already recommended in BI Europe Indian standards IS 1141/1993. So these schedules, they have been optimized for each species of timber, and the timbers have been classified in different groups, and depending on the timber class of timber, we can select the schedule. So schedule is nothing, it is basically optimum set of condition between temperature and relative humidity with respect to the moisture content of the wood. For instance, if you see the schedule 1, when the moisture content is more than 60%, then we should start the drying at around 52 degrees centigrade, and we have to maintain a humidity of 62%. So as the moisture content in the wood decreases, so gradually we have to increase the temperature and reduce the humidity. So these schedules are already there. So we have to just select the species and find out the suitable schedule and follow those schedules for drying. So if you follow this, at the end, we can ensure that our material has been properly dried and it has encountered very less degrade. So there are different methods of seasoning, even in rural areas where we don't have access to drying, simply we put the wood in the sunlight for drying. Of course, that is one of the easiest and most economic way of drying, and we call it as air drying. And but we don't have much choice, control over this phenomenon, drying processes. But where we have control, we call it as a kiln drying. And in kiln drying, as I mentioned, we have the possibility to control either the temperature, humidity, or even the velocity of air, because air works as a medium for taking out the water from the wood to the outside of the kiln. So there are different kiln drying methods, but in India, most of the drying is followed with steam heated kiln. Although dehumidification kiln is also used to certain extent. Electrically heated kilns, it was started in the beginning. However, because of higher cost of electricity, it may not be very economical. However, it can be clubbed with solar kilns in the form of a hybrid drying system. And these are the traditional kiln drying methods what we follow in India. Besides, there have been new inclusions into these processes like vacuum drying, where the pressure can be reduced inside the chamber to facilitate faster moisture removal. And in recent years, we are also venturing into high frequency and microwave drying, where the material can be dried at a faster rate, but they have certain limitations because of the capacity. But still, in India, I think it is still in the nascent stage, and research inputs are needed to make it commercial. So the first and the most easiest way to dry the timber is by air seasoning. As I mentioned, in air seasoning, all the natural parameters available in the atmosphere, like the temperature, humidity, and wind speed, that we take into advantage for drying the timber. Because it is air dried, we are not putting any extra energy or in terms of heating or circulating air. This is the most economic method of drying. However, as I mentioned, we don't have control, so sometimes the process can be very long, and it can take 3 to 6 months depending on the places where it has been practiced. But in case in Indian context, we have it is being a tropical countries, we have good access to solar radiation, and the temperature is average temperature. It can be around in most part of the country is around 20, more than 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. So this can be utilized. The advantage of tropical climate can be utilized for um, practicing the air drying, which can be more economical. There are different air drying shades depending on the refractory classes, as I mentioned in the beginning. So the drying shades can be fabricated. They are very low cost shades, and depending on the species used and the location, the shade type can be decided and can help in facilitating air drying. But as I mentioned, in kiln drying, we have all the control measures. We have regulation for temperature, humidity, and air speed. In most of the schedules in Indian standard, they range between a temperature of 38 degree to 68 degrees. However, in recent in other countries, no, even high temperature drying, even up to 100 degree, can be followed for faster drying. So kiln provides definitely better opportunity to control our drying processes, so that we minimize the drying time, and we maximize the recovery without much degradation. So as I mentioned, the most prevalent drying kilns followed in India is steam heated. As the name suggests, the heating medium is by steam, and the temperature we can achieve up to 75 degree, and humidity up to 100 degree we can have. So we can achieve. So with these two combinations, we can control the drying processes depending on the species used. So drying time can range from 8 to 15 days depending on the species as well as the temperature we are following. Dehumidification drying, this is just a little bit advanced version of kiln drying, because here instead of venting the energy, because when we remove moisture from the wood in normal kiln, we vent the moisture outside of the chamber. So in the process, we also vent some of the energy out. So in the dehumidification kiln, we trap the part of that energy inside the chamber, so that while venting out, we don't lose most of the energy. So that's why it is more energy saving as compared to the normal traditional drying methods. So there are different types of dehumidifiers available based on refrigerant or desiccant types, and this is commercial. These are available in the market. And in the although vacuum drying is one of the fastest drying method, and we can dry the timber even in 3 to 5 days depending on the species. But the time can be substantially reduced by 30 to 40%. And the operating cost also a little bit higher, because the initial cost is also a bit high. So if beside these three methods, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are all the different methods like high frequency drying, where it can have advantage both drying as well as sterilizing the timber from the perspective of quarantines. But still, it is these methods are in the initial stages, so a lot of research inputs are needed to make these processes commercial. So if you talk about the comparative performance of different types of kilns, of course, air drying can be more than 3 to 6 months, but steam heated kilns can be 10 to 15 days. Dehumidification drying, again, it's 12 to 15 days. Solar kilns, this is one of the potential method I'll just highlight at the end. This can be one of the, I think, solution for Indian context. Although the drying time is more than 18, it can prolong for 18 to 30 days, but this can be minimized by combining with hybrid system. And vacuum kiln drying, it takes only 3 to 4 days. So this is a comparative comparative performance, how the different kilns behave when we dry a timber. And as far as energy consumption is concerned, conventional drying are a little bit more energy intensive. For unit for kg of water, they need around 1.3 to 1.4 kilowatt hour of energy, with the energy efficiency of around less than 50%. But when you talk about dehumidification drying, the energy efficiency can be around 75 to up to 75%, with the energy consumption of only 0.86 kilowatt hour per kg of water removal. So these are some of the benefits when you deal with wood seasoning. But although we know that seasoning is the foremost step in wood processing industries, but I don't think it is followed in true spirit, because we have there is lack of information about how to season the wood and what the Bureau of Indian Standards says. So sometimes we dry the timber and we feel that it has been dried properly, but we never know what is the moisture distribution in the timber itself, because if the distribution is not good in the when we start using it, start all the problems can be started again. So we are putting energy, but at the end we are we won't get material of desired quality what we always aim for. So Bureau of Standard always recommends that what should the distribution pattern in the dried material, but I don't think hardly any small industries they are following the exact practice, because we always remove the moisture, but we don't know how the moisture distribution pattern is and how the stresses are built up. So when you talk about opportunities, of course this is most important, but the most energy intensive processes in timber utilization, the energy intensive the energy consumption can be 50% of the total energy consumed in the entire wood processing industries. So because of that, sometimes we neglect these processes because to save cost in terms of energy. However, if we compromising the processing steps, we'll always lead with a material with poor quality, so that it will have a very shorter life and will need frequent replacements. So indirectly, it can have implication on forest conservation also. Hence, it is imperative that we should treat timber properly before putting it to any utilization. But when you talk about that, when you want to ensure that everybody should go for all the companies or individuals, when they should demand for seasoned material, then the next question comes, how we can facilitate these processes. So it is interesting to mention that being a tropical countries, we have access to 5,000 trillion kilowatt hour for energy incident over Indian land area, and with a average of 4 to 7 kilowatt energy per square meter. So this is a beautiful avenue which can be trapped for drying. It can be by different methods. For instance, we can also install solar cells. We can heat water and the water can be circulated for seasoning, and we can also go for the traditional solar kiln method, where the chambers are built in the concept of greenhouse effect. So there is a good potential that the solar energy can be utilized, because as we know that the energy is the only inhibiting factor for drying. If that energy can be managed from renewable sources without putting much cost, then it can be it can be promoted easily. So there is a huge potential that this renewable energy can be utilized in wood processing, not only in seasoning, even it can be utilized for other processing fields. And suppose if the other of if that is also may not, if not possible to some extent, but there are possibilities from Ministry of, as our director has mentioned, that there is a possibility from getting support from Ministry of my MSME ministry, Government of India, to get funding and establish seasoning facilities. Not only seasoning, even all woodworking facilities, but for preservation perspective, seasoning and wood preservation is very, very important. MSME provides financial support up to 20 crore for developing in, based on a cluster development program. And although these programs are not meant only for individual manufacturers, however, if there is a cluster of more than around 20 micro MSME industries, like small, micro and small enterprises, with a group of minimum 20, so they can join, make a consortium or association, and they can always approach MSME for providing financial support for development of all these facilities, like wood seasoning kilns and preservation plants. And it is a it can be common facility center, so everybody can make access of those facilities and utilize those facilities for processing wood for its better durability. And in this context, IWST can provide most of the technical support in preparing the project, particularly for pertaining to wood seasoning and preservation. And the project can, once the project can be funded, once installed, it can be sustainably utilized by all the members, and there is no restriction on the maximum number of participants they can join in this consortium. So these are some of the possibilities or opportunities where we should trap, so that we should ensure that in future, whenever we use wood, we should dry it properly, and so that we can ensure that the material is of good quality and we can have a better service life, so that it can have indirectly we can protect our forest, and we can really meaningfully utilize the concept of sustainability from this material. So thank you for this opportunity, and I'll be happy if I have if I can get any questions. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sethi. I would like you to take your screen share. I would like to ask you to take your screen share off. And if anyone has any questions to ask Mr. Sethi, now is the moment. Please ask your questions directly here or through Facebook. So we would be taking those questions, and Dr. Sethi, he will be taking your questions and he'll answer your questions right here. So if anyone has any questions, please. I will ask you all of you again, if anyone has any questions for Dr. Sethi, please go ahead. Madhu ma'am, are there any questions from Facebook Live for Dr. Sethi right now?
Not at the moment, Vansi. We'll take it up later on.
All right, we'll take it later. Sure. So now I would like to welcome Shree Sanjay Goyal, Shree Anil Kumar, and Shree Dwararam Krishna to share some of their experience with timber seasoning, starting with Shree Sanjay Goyal. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, trade friends, colleagues, and distinguished scientists from the IWST. It's a great pleasure to be on this platform and share my experiences. See, basically, I am into this trade for the last. We are into this trade for the last 5 decades. We started as retailers and wholesalers, and eventually got into manufacturing. We are into manufacturing of various timber products. Initially, when we started manufacturing, we did not have much knowledge about how to do manufacturing and what all has to go into manufacturing. And we thought it was just a baby's walk in the street. We used to get the timber and start manufacturing plywood without giving much concentration on seasoning. Eventually, we started marketing and we got a lot of problems and complaints from all our customers. So we slowly went into learning what are the mistakes that we were doing. Now, seasoning is one of the most important factor in timber business. Unfortunately, most of the people in the Indian market do not give any emphasis on seasoning. Even today, I should say, with an estimate of around $7 to $8 billion business in India, timber-based business in India, unfortunately, people do not have any knowledge about what is seasoning, how it is to be done, what are the timelines, which species take how much time. There's absolutely no knowledge to the general customer. Forget about the general customer, most of the architects and interior designers also do not have such knowledge. And the basic attitude, the Indian attitude of Chalta Hai is one of the most predominant attitude that is available. So things are just going on the way it has to go. And as Sir has already mentioned earlier, that we are importing teak worth 10 to 12,000 crore rupees year on year, because teak is one of the most stable timber and doesn't have much water content, and it can be dried very easily. So it remains stable, it remains good, and people rely on that. I would like to say that there are much better timbers which are underutilized. There are a lot of timbers which are more beautiful than teak, but because it is underutilized for its other factors like moisture content, then the glucose content that has in the timber, because of which it is susceptible to termite and borer attacks, because it's not treated. In India, basically, people do not give any emphasis on treatment. That is the biggest problem. If we can educate the people about what treatment has to be done on what timber, I feel that there could be a lot of saving nationally, and we can save a lot of funds for the government of India by utilizing timber which are available homegrown, which generally people nowadays use it more of as a firewood, which is criminal wastage of money. So seasoning is one of the most and critical part of wood. Once you season wood, as per the species, as per the times required for the particular species, I can assure you that it is much far lasting as teak or any other high value product like rosewood or walnut or any other species. We technically do not need to import so much quantity of wood, but because of lack of knowledge, I feel that we are going the wrong way, and we need to educate people. We need to educate architects. We need to educate institutes where interior designers and architects are being passed out year on year. We need to get into collaboration with these people to make them understand and keep seasoning as one of the most important chapter in their academic, so that they understand and they insist. It is very clear that only when a customer insists that the seller would be inclined to go the extra mile to give the good quality. Otherwise, the same attitude which is there will continue time and again, time and again, and time and again. So I would suggest that seasoning needs to be propagated. It needs to be made uh, compulsory. I would also like to add here that unfortunately, the kind of requirement that is actually available for seasoning, we in India do not have more than 4% of the actual requirement. There are seasoning kilns which is only at 4% as on date, as per my understanding. We need to make it compulsory. Maybe some kind of a regulation needs to be introduced that all wood manufacturers who are into manufacturing of timber-based products needs to have a seasoning plant, like the pollution control board or something like that. We need a regulation. Unless things don't do, these things of practice will continue. This is what all I have to say on seasoning.
Thank you very much, Sanjay Goyalji. I would now like to invite Sri Anil Kumar to share his experience with timber seasoning.
Thank you very much, Mansi. Thank you. And first of all, I'm thankful to respected Director IWST, Dr. MP Singh, Dr. KK Pandey, Ply Reporter team, and all valuable members present in this important session on wood production practice and way forward, for providing me an opportunity to share my views. And I'll say, really, this is a very important, very nice session on myself and on this topic. And myself working this industry in the last 19 years. I am an alumni of FRI Dehradun, passed out in 2002 year. And I have worked in several countries on shop floor in woodworking industries like wood storage, wood preservation, wood seasoning, clean dry wood testing, joinery finishing and product development sectors. And I have worked in India, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Gulf as well. Right now working in India in a William O'Connor buying house. And I will say in this industry, unfortunately, there are so many entrepreneurs in woodworking industries or furniture industries who are not giving much importance to these processes. As Mr. Sanjay Goyal said, कि हाँ चलता है उस तरह का लोग mindset रखते हैं in wood production or other processes. For example, kiln dry and greenwood storages है वहाँ पे ध्यान नहीं देते हैं, या wood preservation है, wood seasoning है, क्या right protocol, क्या right system technically होना चाहिए, nobody is following, or most of the people are not following these things. Though we know the fact that there are 85% wood industries are under an organized category, only 15% are under organized sector. And here I am happy to say that to educate these woodworking industries and people, buying houses or outsourcing companies like William O'Connor, William Sonoma, Indian Ink, Flat World, Walkouts, like this, there are so many outsourcing companies who are playing very important role to educate these people, these entrepreneurs, their technical teams. I'm also one of them, and they have experts. Like these buying houses have experts, and they have good technical knowledge. They are alumni of FRI, Prati, IWST, or several other technical institutes who are working these fields, and they are working rigorously on wood protection activities for storage, seasoning, preservation, joinery and wood saving practices, and on product developments as well. So. I would like to tell you in my service of 19 years what I have observed practically on shop floor. Most of the time I have spent on shop floor in the factories, and I have been involved in so many activities related to wood production and joinery. So I will say there are three types of entrepreneurs in our industry. First, who are dealing in woodworking. First, entrepreneur who have their seasoning capacity, and but they don't have their sawmill, and they are taking greenwood from outside, and they are seasoning themselves and working ahead. And the second type of vendor, they don't have any their own sawmill. They are just buying greenwood, taking inside and going ahead. And third type, they don't have any procurement of greenwood. They are just taking kiln dry wood from the outside, and then they are working ahead. So what's happening with these three types of entrepreneur in furniture industries? The first one, if they are getting greenwood, so how to place that greenwood, how to store, they don't know. कई बार हमारे सामने ट्रक में माल आया और वो ओपन में डाल दिया उसको, मान लिया वो 3-4 सेफ्टी का माल आ गया और उसको ओपन में पड़ा है, सन है, रेन है, कुछ भी है, दे आर नॉट बोदर अबाउट दैट. तो उसमें क्या होता है, अब उस ग्रीन मटेरियल को वो स्टैक करने में कई बार 3 दिन, 4 दिन, 5 दिन का टाइम लग जाता है. तो उस टाइम में जो भी सन है या रेनिंग कंडीशन, जो भी एडवर्स एनवायरमेंटल कंडीशन है, वो वुड पे अपना असर डालेगी, माइनर सरफेस क्रैक डेवलप हो जाते हैं. और सेकेंडली, जब बाद में उसको वो कई बार उनके दिमाग में ये भी रहता है कि हम लोग क्या ग्रीन वुड को स्टैक अलग से करें, हम एक काम करेंगे, अभी उसको जहां पड़ी है वहीं पड़ी रहने देते हैं, हम उसको डायरेक्ट वुड प्रिजर्वेशन ट्रीटमेंट में लेके जाएंगे और तभी इसका अभी, वरना एक बार ग्रीन वुड का स्टैक करेंगे, फिर केमिकल ट्रीटमेंट करेंगे, उसके बाद फिर दोबारा स्टैक करना पड़ेगा, फिर हमें चैम्बर में ले जाना पड़ेगा. तो इस तरह की एक्टिविटीज को वो, जैसे मिस्टर गोयल ने बोला कि चलता है, तो उस तरह का एटीट्यूड कुछ लोग रखते हैं कि हाँ चलता है, अभी उसको पड़ा रहने तो बाद में उसको यूज कर लेंगे. तो इस तरह से क्या होता है, काफी सारा वुड वेस्टेज हो जाता है, सरफेस क्रैक डेवलप हो जाते हैं जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ फास्ट इवेपोरेशन ऑफ मॉइस्चर कंटेंट ड्यूरिंग हाई सन, एंड बेसिकली इट हैपेंस अ लॉट इन राजस्थान बेल्ट, नॉर्थ इंडिया. So what happens? So what I'm doing, because I'm doing technical audits and I'm training the people to protect the timber in such conditions. So they should immediately get stacking of greenwood as soon as truck arrives in their factory. They should get for stacking of proper stacking of that greenwood. Then they should go for wood preservation, and then they should go for seasoning. So now we come to the another kind of people who are getting only seasoned wood from the outside. They are getting kiln dry wood from the outside and they are unloading their truck factory. So what is happening? Again, kiln dry wood पड़ा हुआ है, वो proper stacking नहीं हो रहा है, या अगर वो stacking हो रहा है तो इस तरह से stacking हो रहा है जहाँ पे उनका शेड proper नहीं है, वहाँ पे air circulation बहुत ज्यादा है, relative humidity का fluctuation बहुत ज्यादा है, and most of people don't know what will be the effect of fluctuating relative humidity a lot. So this is affecting a lot to wood quality. So क्या करना है हम लोगों को, मैं आपको दोनों चीज साथ साथ बता रहा हूँ क्या हो रहा है और हम लोगों ने क्या डेवलपमेंट किए हैं या लोगों को हम लोग क्या गाइड करते हैं. जो भी हमारा क्लियर प्रॉपर स्टोरेज में जाना चाहिए, सीजन वुड जो भी है, बाहर से जो सीजन वुड लोगों ने लिया है, या प्रिजर्वेशन के बाद जो वुड को स्टैक करना है प्रॉपर्ली होना चाहिए. तो उस तरह की हमें इट्स कॉल्ड वुड स्टोरेज कैपेबिलिटीज, वो डेवलप होनी चाहिए, होना चाहिए, पोर्टलेट क्लोज होना चाहिए, खाली एंट्री और एग्जिट के लिए उसमें रास्ता होना चाहिए, अदरवाइज प्रोटेक्ट होना चाहिए. हमने काफी सारे वेंडरों के यहाँ मैंने करवाया है ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ माय कंपनी. कई बार क्या होता है, जैसे अभी बताया कि एक कोई स्ट्रिक्ट प्रोटोकॉल होना चाहिए, वैसे काफी सारे सोर्सिंग कंपनी इंटरनेशनली जिन लोगों ने अपने एक स्ट्रिक्ट प्रोटोकॉल बनाए हैं, हम लोगों ने प्रोटोकॉल बनाए हैं कि अगर ग्रीन वुड आएगा तो उसको कैसे स्टैक करना है, प्रिजर्वेशन कैसे करना है, किस केमिकल से करना है, और उसके बाद उसको स्टैकिंग कैसे करनी है. तो ये चीजें हैं जो प्रोटोकॉल से हम लोग उनको समझाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं और उसको मैंडेटरी कर रहे हैं कि आपको इस तरह से स्टैक करना है. उनको स्टैकिंग के मेथड, प्रिजर्वेशन के मेथड, सीजनिंग के मेथड, बाकी सारी चीजें हम लोग बताते हैं. मैं खुद उनको, उनकी टीम को ट्रेन करता हूँ फैक्ट्रीज में जा करके, उनकी टेक्निकल टीम को, मैनेजमेंट स्टाफ को, और जो बिल्कुल नीचे वाले लेवल के जो लोग उस काम को करते हैं, जो इवन जो लोग स्टैकिंग करते हैं चैम्बर, उन तक के लोग हम लोग ट्रेनिंग देते हैं हमारी कंपनी. तो मैं बात करता हूँ सीजनिंग प्रोसेस की. हम सीजनिंग की बात कर रहे हैं. सीजनिंग प्रोसेस में क्या होता है, काफी सारे लोग सीजनिंग की इंपोर्टेंस को बहुत ज्यादा नहीं जानते हैं, या जानते तो नहीं मानते हैं. उसमें क्या हो रहा है, वो सीजनिंग तो कर रहे हैं बट बेसिकली वो सीजनिंग नहीं कर रहे हैं, वो ड्राइंग कर रहे हैं. As Sethi sir told that there is a difference between drying and seasoning. ड्राइंग मींस हम लकड़ी को खाली सुखा रहे हैं, We are not giving any nuances of controlled condition. We are not giving any control condition on temperature, relative humidity and air circulation. बस काफी सारे वेंडर्स आपको नॉर्थ इंडिया में या बाकी जगह पैसे मिलेंगे, लकड़ी को चैम्बर में डाला और हाई टेम्परेचर पे शुरू किया 50 डिग्री सेल्सियस से, और 70-80 पे ले जाकर के जो टिम्बर 15 दिन 20 दिन में सीजन होना चाहिए उसको वो 8 दिन में सीजनिंग करके बाहर निकाल देते हैं, यानी फास्ट ड्राइंग करके बाहर निकाल देते हैं। तो ऐसा हमारे भी काफी वेंडरों के साथ होता था। फिर उनको प्रॉपर्ली समझाया कि जब आप स्टैकिंग कर रहे हैं तो स्टैकिंग कैसे करना चाहिए, स्टैकिंग करते वक्त आपको बीच में स्पेसर रखना है तो स्पेसर की थिकनेस 1 इंच बाय 1 इंच होना चाहिए, उनके बीच में गैप आपका 1 से 1.5 फीट का होना चाहिए, क्रॉसर्स की थिकनेस यूनिफॉर्म होना चाहिए, एयर सर्कुलेशन को अब बराबर वैल्यूमीटर से इसकी एयर की स्पीड नाप करके उसको मैनेज करना यूनिफॉर्म लेवल पे होना चाहिए एज मच एज पॉसिबल। टेम्परेचर किल्न शेड्यूल हम लोग अपनाने की कोशिश करते हैं कि जो हमारे शेड्यूल हमारे स्टैंडर्ड में दिए गए हैं बीआईएस में उनको फॉलो करें, या हमारा जो मैक्स स्पीसीज यूज होती है वो अकेशिया निलोटी का है या मैंजीफेर एंडी का है, सबसे ज्यादा इस्तेमाल होने वाले स्पीसीज है। तो हम उनके शेड्यूल उनको ट्रेन कराते हैं कैसे ड्राई बल्ब को और डब्ल्यूबीटी को वेट बल्ब को कैसे मेंटेन करना है, कैसे आपका सर्कुलेशन को मेंटेन करना है। अगर साइड माउंटेड मैक्सिमम किल स्टीम हीटेड किल्न
I think Anil ji has some network issues. He'll be back shortly. So I think we should take the session forward, and once he is back in the network area, I'll ask him to join and continue with the session. Till then, we'll invite Shree Dwara Ramakrishna ji to share his experience with timber seasoning. We welcome you, Dwara Ramakrishna. Okay, so Anil ji is back.
कई बार आपकी टीम को बोलते हैं कि आप अभी yes
Hello?
Anil ji, are you in a better connection area, network connection area right now? Because I think your network seemed to have lost.
No, I think I can hear you very well and I can see everyone.
All right, all right. Then you should continue first.
Is there any issue in my voice, or I mean,
actually, it is
Hello?
breaking a little, but we should carry on the session right now. So you can go further. You can go ahead.
So मैं बताना चाह रहा था आप लोगों की अगर कई बार अगर हमारे किल्न की कैपेसिटी 1050 है तो
Anil ji, if you can hear me, I think your voice is not audible and your network is breaking in between. So till then, I think I'll ask you to take the session forward later once I invite Shri Dwara Ramakrishna ji to speak first. Dwara Ramakrishna ji, unmute your mic.
प्योर वुड डाल सकते हैं तो 1000
Hello?
Hello? Yes, sir, you're audible. You can speak.
Would you be able to hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm able to hear you. You can start with your experience with timber season.
Thank you. Good morning to all. I am very much thankful to the IWST and especially Dr. Singh ji, Director Singh ji and his team. And at the same time, I thank Ms. Swani and Dr. Pandey for remembering me. In this connection, I would like to say I don't have any figures because basically I am a trader. I am a manufacturer. Here, I am the General Secretary for the state of Andhra Pradesh for the sawmills, timber merchants and allied industries for the last 30 years. And the same position I am holding for all India for the last 13 years. Most unfortunate thing here is I have been appealing to various departments of states and as well as Government of India to make seasoning of food a compulsory one. In this connection, I would like to say one more thing also. I have established one solar kiln in the year 1984 and it is still operating in a very good healthy condition. And I am
supplying materials made of totally seasoned wood to all my customers, and it is doing very well. By selling and using seasoned wood, that is, I mean, we need not go for, I mean, other seasonings, that is, I mean, chemical treatment and all these things for all woods. And now, in our country, most of the sawmills, which are around 70,000, depend on the agroforestry, that is trees outside forest, TOI. 80 to 86% of the wood for the sawmills is coming from trees, TOM. But unfortunately, not even 1% of the sawmills are having any treatment equipment or any treatment facility in their plants. Until and unless a rule is made that treatment of wood is a compulsory one, our sawmillers won't adopt this particular practice. We are wasting a lot of national wealth. It's not your wealth or not my wealth. We are wasting a lot of national wealth by giving untreated wood or unseasoned wood to the consumers. I would like to say one more thing, sir. Our Rajahmundry, which is in Andhra Pradesh, is very famous for natural treatment of wood in the before 80s. Hot and cold process of wood treatment was followed in those days. How? We used to bring the material and keep it on the river ghats in Madhya Pradesh, that represent Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra. That is all these river ghats for months together for drying, natural drying of lots. Later onwards, we put them into river Sabari, Godavari, Indravati and all these places. And we used to bring it by rafting system to Rajahmundry, which sometimes takes time from 15 days to 48 days. All these days, I mean, it used to be, soaked in the water. So natural hot process in ghats and cold process in river used to take place. The natural treatment of wood, which was in practice before 80s in our state and especially in our timber yard. That was our timber yard became very famous in India. So now things have changed. The cost of wood has shot up beyond one's imagination. But at the same time, we are wasting a lot of material. And I almost advocated the same thing to a number of people. And as regards solar kiln treatment, I would like to say, the time takes depends on the moisture content of the wood and the capacity of the solar kiln and dimensions. And another thing is, most important is solar energy available. Sir, one more thing I would like to say, solar kiln means you need not go for, cells, solar cells. Only a simple, plain 6 mm to 8 mm glass is sufficient. Corrugated sheets, installed in the solar kiln, they absorb the heat, and to make uniform circulation of the air in the solar kiln, you have to use fans at least for 2 or 3 hours a day. And when heat, generates more, you have to use humidifiers. It's a very, very simple, easy and economical way. And even though it takes, the time takes according to the wood only and the availability of solar energy. Solar energy, sun, natural sun. In our country, according to my experience, solar kilns will do a lot of service to the nation, not to the sawmiller or not to the end user, but to the nation. The wood we save today will be useful for the future generations. That's my concept, basic concept. So earlier also I requested a number of times, both in 1996, seminars at Bangalore, in which I participated. And I'm proud to say, this solar kiln was, visited by a lumbermen from US, lumbermen from Norway and Sweden, and they appreciated it, but at the same time they lamented that, my solar kiln is very smaller one. That is the position, sir. But once again, I appeal, a law must be made. Until and unless a rule or a law is made, nobody in the country follows it, and it should be strictly implemented. Right now, some of our gentlemen, who said like pollution board. Sir, don't, treat pollution board with all the things, because as a ground man, even at this age also, I'm 72 years old. At this age also, of course, I stand behind my machines and supervise all these things. And the wastage from the solar kiln depends on the supervision. That supervision is also not needed continuously. If you make an hour or an half an hour visit to your solar kiln, which is situated in the premises, in your industry premises, it is sufficient. When the temperature exceeds more than 38 degrees centigrade, then only you have to use, humidifiers, or sometimes 42 according to the wood only. So, and practically, and this I copied it from Dehradun, sir. ICFRE is there, and they installed, some solar columns at the government sawmill Rajahmundry, and I took the design from Rajahmundry sawmill, which was closed, some 2 decades ago, and now still I am running it successfully and to the best of the satisfaction myself and to my customer. And thank you very much for giving me opportunity. First of all and lastly, I would like to tell our director, please kindly recommend that the rule should be amended in such a way. Just I suppose when licensing system is there, all the sawmillers will go for licensing. So if you put a law like this, a solar wood treatment is a must. Then we can save a lot of wood for the future generations. That's my ambition. Thank you very much for being this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramakrishna ji. Now I would like to invite Mr. Anil Kumar again, if he is in a better network connection right now, to continue his experience with timber seasoning. Mr. Anil Kumar, if you're here, please unmute yourself and please switch on your camera. Yeah, I can see you now and I can listen. I can hear your voice.
I have joined on another device now.
Yeah, I can see that. You can continue with your experience.
So I was discussing regarding seasoning kilns where people are not giving attention how they should go for seasoning processes and seasoning systems. Where is the capacity of seasoning plant is 1000 CFT. They are putting 1200 or 1300 CFT itself, and they are not giving any space for air circulation and for proper air circulation and air temperature. They are not maintaining dry bulb and wet bulb in the kilns. So these things happening in the factories, and really they are not so technically, and we people, and there are some other guys who are giving training to them just to upgrade their knowledge. So I would say, in fact, I would like to share one thing which is personally for me. When I came to know 5 years ago that this is happening in our woodworking industries, and when I saw in Malaysia, there were the people who are doing volunteer consultancy to their supportive industries. So I started in India also. If anybody needs any help from me or us, so we are anytime available for voluntary help for their technical know-hows in seasoning, preservation, or joinery processes, just to help our Indian woodworking industries, as I support to them a lot for furniture industry who are working in our country. So this I'm doing on my behalf. And now we come to back to our industries. So they even after seasoning, what is the quality of their seasoned wood? They are not very well aware. They are not doing any kind of testing. And then there should be at least which we are guiding them, and everybody should do that. Like before the finalizing of the seasoning, they should go for conditioning, for pre-steaming as well as conditioning at the last of kill, and they should go for this prong test and slice test to check whether they have done proper seasoning or not. So we should apply such kind of testing in any woodworking industries or seasoning plant as well. So there are a set of things where we can check whether this seasoning is good or not. Like I told you, air circulation should be maintained, and temperature, relative humidity, and seasoning schedules, testing of wood. So there are so many set of things which we can do, which we can mandatory apply in any woodworking industry, and then we can improve this quality of seasoning, and we can enhance wood protection, and we can stop the wastage of wood. So I'll say only this thing at the moment. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anil Kumar. Okay, so if anyone has any questions right now, they can unmute themselves, or they can raise their hands. Also, there are a few questions mentioned in the chat box. If Mr. Sanjay Goyal, Anil Kumar, and Mr. Dwara Ramakrishna would like to take them and answer them for all our viewers. If anyone has any question, they can simply just raise their hand, or they can unmute themselves so they can ask the question live here.
Yeah, Manisi, we have Dr. C.N. Pandey in the audience. So
all right.
He's one of the expert in wood seasoning. So we'd like to, sorry, if you would like to say something, share your views.
Mr. C.N. Pandey, if you're here, please unmute your mic. Yeah, your mic is unmuted. We can see you. Can you unmute your camera as Right. We can see you now.
Sarva Pranam.
Sir, you are not audible.
Sir, your voice is not coming.
Dr. Sen Pandey, you're not audible. We can see you, but we cannot hear you right now. I think you will have to recheck your network connection.
Network is okay. Maybe.
अभी ठीक है सर, आ रहा है अभी. Again, it's not coming.
It's we cannot hear you. Is it possible that we invite him right after the questions?
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Right? All right, no problem. So, Mr. Anil Kumar, if you would like to answer any questions, Mr. Sanjay Goyal, if you would like to answer any questions, there is the chat box. I'll read them to you.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, Mr. Nail Mehta is asking from Facebook Live, why yet plywood industry is called unorganized sector? Can we make it better and organized sector? It will make good and positive effects on plywood business. So this is the first question we have from Facebook Live.
Anilji, would you like to answer that or should I take it up?
Yeah, please, Mr. Goyal.
Fine. Thank you. See, it is a very unfortunate thing that it is still called an unorganized sector. I also feel very ashamed about the whole thing. The simple reason, again, I'm insisting is that the basic chalta hai attitude in manufacturing of any product related to timber, may it be furniture, plywood or anything, it is still run by people who do not give any emphasis on quality. The time there is education to the architects, through the architects and through the interior designers to the end user, that he should insist on getting a better product, that is where we will start getting more organized. Because organization means quality, it means precision and a good product. That is what I feel. Unless and until that chalta hai attitude and the knowledge of architects and interior designers do not go up, the same unorganized matter will continue. This is what I feel.
All right, very well said. I hope it answers the questions asked by Mr. Mehta.
Okay, Mansi, I'll add to this answer that
Okay.
there is no such classification as unorganized now. It was
All
before.
right.
Now it is MSME. And only problem what is happening is that the standards, all the standards are not mandatory. And most of the industry, they have not taken the standards, they have not applied for the BIS standards and they are not using it. That is the only category you can make, that those who are using the BIS standard, those who are not using the BIS. So they have to be registered with the BIS and use that standard. Otherwise, all are MSME or the big industry. Okay, so there is no other qualification, this classification like unorganized now. It was before. Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, so thank you so much. I guess Mr. B.A. Srinivasan has a question. He has raised his hand. So you can unmute your mic and you can ask your question directly here. Mr. B.A. Srinivasan, you can unmute your mic and you can ask your question. Doctor, okay, all right. I guess Dwara Ramakrishna ji, you also have a question. You have raised a hand. You can unmute your mic and you can ask if you have any question.
He will have the answer.
Can I speak now? I'm Srinivasan
that's
here.
what I was thinking. He will have the answer.
I'm Srinivasan here. Can I speak on? I've been invited by IWST. I'm speaking on behalf of Lagu Udyog Bharati Karnataka, wherein we are intervening in the design intervention and the revival of Tinala and Chanpatna toy clusters in Karnataka. we have a problem in, having the common treatment facility and other issues, and IWST has very aptly addressed all the the artisans and the clusters, how they can set up their own facility for treatment of wood. It's a good session today, but basically you are looking into plywood industry. I think we need to look at the regular timber, which is also available in the market. And the second important point, which I would like to tell all the distinguished audience is, there is a huge problem for the artisans to get wood from the forest department, and various issues regarding the clearances and so-called laws and acts of the government of India. I think we should bring this particular wood and other things under the Agroforestry Act so that they can grow their trees and cut it and use it in the respective areas of the country, and Karnataka in particular. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with IWST and all of you in future. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srinivasan. It was nice hearing from you. Okay, so there we have another question by Rajesh Yadav on Facebook itself. The question is, how to get information about Sandalwood Plantation? If any one of you would like to answer, Mr. Dwara Ramakrishna, if you would like to answer, you should unmute your mic. I can see you have raised your hand.
Yes. Can I talk right now?
Yeah, you're audible and you can answer the question.
Actually, not only question, as I see Srinivasan, DS Srinivasan, he has almost raised a very particular point. It's really a good point raised by an architect. Sir, how many architects or how many engineers who are in this, building construction know about the treatment of wood? None of them. Most of them. Sorry, I could not say none of them. Most of them. First of all, almost all the builders are dependent on the architects and as well as the engineers. It is the duty of the architects and as well as the engineers to instruct their clients that they should use only treated wood. So, to know the treated wood, it's very easy for you to identify. Not at all that much of difficulty, because by seeing the natural weight of the wood and put both the two pieces in your two hands, it shows whether it is seasoned or not, dried or not. Very, very simple. And another thing is, naturally, number of cases, at the time of treatment in solar kiln, the wood develops cracks in its ends. That's one symbol. Another symbol is that it sometimes, a number of cases in the soft woods, and the wood also, there is a good chance for warping also. So for that, the latest technology is finger jointing. So that also you can opt for it. Now, actually, in our country is mostly a traditional one. Even most of the people in our country, they are not opting for finger jointing of all these things, which is almost a very ancient one in our country. In those days, it was called crocodile joints. Now we renamed it as finger joints. Importing it from Western countries. So that also can be done. And as regards the treatment, before purchasing your wood, you just, try to know whether that particular institute or the industry has got any seasoning plant or not. But none of them bothers about it. And most unorganized sector, I would like to say, I'm very sorry to say, even though I am one of head of this organization, one of the most unorganized sectors in the Union of India is our sawmilling community. No, I'm openly clear. This is what I have been advocating in all the platforms, all these time in 3 decades. But they are not coming forward. Why? Because nobody is cooperating with the real trader. So this is one answer, the only answer which I already mentioned. And right now, I would like to say I have got a copy which I got from ETC and NFL. It is Ease of Free Cultivation and Non-Forest Funds in India. That, sir, India imports what? 42,454.872 crores in 2015 and 16. This is the paper which I got. These figures are not mine. And number of scientists you quote, number of parameters. One need not go for all these parameters. The only parameter is the reliability of the farm, of seller. So in number of other Western countries, a criminal prosecution is there. If the seller sells untreated wood, and as well as the buyer, if he buys untreated wood, both will be criminally prosecuted. So let us not go for criminal prosecution. Let us put it in the rules of the Indian Forest Act or Indian Forest Rules or the respective state forest rules, that until and unless that particular industry will have a wood treatment plant or wood kiln, solar drying kiln. Solar drying kilns are very easy to implement in any short place or big place also. Very, very easy. Not at all a tough job. Please kindly, Dr. Singh, I think you are one of the best source for us. At least you recommend to the government of India and MOIF and CC and to kindly put a particular law. Then only we can prosper. Then only, no, sir, you have taken wood certification. Sir, without treatment and all these things, wood certification will be a null and void. It serves no purpose. It serves no purpose. Please keep it in your mind. I request you. I need not ask you to keep it in mind. I request you. Yours is a very, best organization. And please kindly do it to your organization. That's my appeal to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramakrishnan ji. It was very informative, the details that you shared, the figures that you shared within your content. And if anyone has any questions right now, they can raise their hand, or I can continue with sharing one more question from Facebook Live, and then we will take the session forward. So, Mr. Anil Kumar, Mr. Sanjay Goyal, or Mr. Ramakrishnan, you can, either three of you can answer this question. It is about what is the best moisture content range for FR treatment of timber? Has it got any relation to the FSP of each timber species? If any of you would like to answer this question.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, Mr. Anil Kumar, you would like to answer, please go ahead.
Actually, उनको जानना है कि मोइस्चर कंटेंट क्या है होना चाहिए ये जानना चाह रहे हैं शायद ज्यादा मैं समझ रहा हूँ. It depends upon the application where they want to use this product. What is the application? Suppose they are using for furniture, suppose they are using indoor furniture, outdoor furniture, कहाँ पे और किस लोकेशन पे इस्तेमाल करना है. जनरली जो इंडोर फर्नीचर की रेंज मानी जाती है तो 8% मानी जाती है, 8 ± 2. ठीक है, तो मैक्सिमम आप अगर मैं बोलूँ ऑल ओवर इंडिया की बात करें, अगर नॉर्थ इंडिया की बात करें तो आप 8, 9, 10 तक ले सकते हैं. अगर साउथ इंडिया की मैं बात करूँ तो 12 से लेकर 12 से लेकर 14% तक इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. जैसे अनिल शेट्टी जी ने बताया था अपने प्रेजेंटेशन पे कि इंडिया को 4 जोन में बांटा गया है, जोन 1 से लेकर 4 तक, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन देयर रिलेटिव ह्यूमिडिटी. सो फाइनल मॉइस्चर कंटेंट क्या होना चाहिए डिपेंड करेगा कि जहाँ पे आप प्रोडक्ट का यूज करें वहाँ पे एक एवरेज रिलेटिव ह्यूमिडिटी क्या है, उस पर डिपेंड करेगा क्या है. जनरली मैं बोलूंगा कि 8 ± 2 के बीच में हमें यूज करना चाहिए अगर फर्नीचर है. अगर आप कंस्ट्रक्शन में यूज कर रहे हैं तो अप टू 14-16% यूज कर सकते हैं. तो इट डिपेंड्स completely on the product or area location where they want to use it.
All right, very well answered. So now I would like to take the session forward, and our next segment is focused on wood preservation technologies. And for this section, we have our esteemed speaker, Mrs. C.N. Vani from IWST, who would be presenting on the topic of wood preservation technologies, followed by experience sharing by Shri Anil Kumar and Shri Sanjay Goyal again. Mrs. C.N. Vani, if you're here, please unmute yourself.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, all.
Good morning, ma'am. We cannot see you, Mrs. Vani, if you're here.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sivani from Wood Processing Division, Institute of Food Science and Technology. I'll be presenting the paper on wood preservation technology. So advantages and uses of wood is it is environmentally friendly, biodegradable material, abundant supplies from renewable resources, and uses of wood is it is extensively used in sectors like building, construction, furniture making, cooling towers, packing cases, handicraft, etc. So agents of deterioration is because of its organic or biological nature, wood is susceptible to degradation. Biological factors are fungi, termites, borers. For the solution, for this solution is seasoning and preservation. Non-biological factors, fire. Solution is application of fire retardants, weathering. The solution is chemical or thermal modification. So need for preservation. What is the need for, why the need is, why we have to preserve the wood? So natural durability is the inherent ability of timber to resist degradation. In most of the timber species, sapwood is non-durable. It needs preservation. Non-durable timbers, when suitably treated, would give adequate life under life conditions. Wood preservation is the art of preserving timber against fungi and insects. Wood preservatives are chemical constituents that when applied to wood makes it resistant against fungi and insects. It forms a very important part in processing of timber, thereby conservation of the material resources of the country. So what durability of timber? Timbers are classified under different durability classes based on the hardwood durability. These are as follows. Class 1 is 120 months and more. Its durability is more, it's 120 and more. Example is teak wood, rosewood. And class 2 is 60 but less than 120 months, that is bubble, eucalyptus and terminalia species. Class 3 is less than 60 months, rubber wood, mango and semul. Selection of preservatives, it is very important. It depends upon the properties of the wood to be treated, the anticipated service life and the properties of the chemical formulation. Wood preservative formulation must be toxic to fungi, termites and borer. It should be chemically stable. It should be safe to handle. It should not have any corrosive properties. And the permanency of the wood preservatives in the treated wood should be more. So what types of preservatives generally what we use? The type is oil type. It should be applied for dry wood, not for green wood. That is coal tar, creosote is an example. Organic solvent preservatives, dry wood to be used, copper, zinc, naphthanates. Water soluble, leachable, green or dry wood can be used, boric acid and borax. The fixed water soluble type is green or dry wood. CCA and CCB can be used for green or dry wood. Eco-friendly preservatives for dry wood only. Cashew nut shell liquid, non-edible oils like neem and pongamia oil. If we prepare complexes from the plant extractives, then we can use green wood and dry wood also, both. So widely used water soluble water preservatives are chromated copper arsenate, chromated copper boric acid, acid copper chromate, alkaline copper quaternary compounds, borates, zinc compounds. These are all the generally used water soluble preservatives. What are the advantages? These preservatives can be transported in a solid form or a concentrated form. Wherever we are treating, we can dilute it. They can be dissolved with the cheapest of all the solvents, that is water. They are very effective against both fungi and insects. They leave the wood in a clean condition and it is not unpleasant to handle. So there are new generation wood preservatives are there. Borates, they include formulations prepared from sodium tetraborate, sodium pentaborate, boric acid, but the most common form is disodium octaborate tetrahydrate and Zyvoc. It is a composite of zinc, boron, copper and azoles. These are the new generation wood preservatives. And ammonia-based preservatives are also there. Alkyl ammonium compounds are new biocides effectively used in New Zealand, Europe and America. They have both fungicidal and insecticidal properties. Combination of alkyl ammonium compounds with copper and ammoniacal solutions improve the performance of timber in ground contact. This formulation gives protection equal to that of CCA. Quaternary ammonium compounds, that is ACZA and ACA, that is ammoniacal copper zinc arsenate, ammoniacal copper arsenate. Micronized copper azole. MCA is a waterborne dispersion of submicron particles of copper compounds in azole. They have lower copper leaching form in treated wood low corrosiveness to the metal fasteners and connectors, lower solubility, relatively less expensive. And recent developments is in the nano preservatives coating systems. Nano based coating for a superior UV and weather resistance. It is easy to clean, antimicrobial, scratch and abrasion resistance. Nanoparticles for wood preservation and UV resistance is nano zinc oxide, nano copper oxide, nano titanium oxide. Wood consists mainly of cellulose, which is combustible. So fire retardants are generally prepared from mono and diammonium phosphates, ammonium sulfate, borax, boric acid, zinc chloride, nano silicon oxide, and mineral materials like nano clay can be used as fire retardants. So eco-friendly preservatives, natural wood preservatives formulation from cashew nut shell liquid, CNSL with inorganic component like copper, eco-friendly preservative based on seed oils and plant extractives. Pongemia oil shows promise. Wood and bark extractives of eucalyptus species and Lantana camara with inorganic components. This can be used as eco-friendly wood preservatives. And the selection of the appropriate preservatives and appropriate treatment method depends on various factors and end users. Condition of the wood, whether it is green or dry, that is if it is having more moisture content or it is dried wood or it is just felled, that we have to see. Treatability factor of the wood to be considered. Treatability of hardwood is classified as A to E, from non-refractory to refractory, that is easily treatable to very difficult to treatment. So end applications, whether we are using in ground contact, exposed to atmosphere or under cover, structural or non-structural, handicraft unit or food containers. We have to select the preservative based on the end use. Quantity to be treated and available time, that also we have to see how much quantity we have to treat. Based on that, we have to choose the methods of preservation and the preservatives. So wood preservative treatment methods are, first and foremost is prophylactic treatment, that is a basic remedial treatment. Second one is diffusion process. Third one is dipping or soaking. Pressure treatment, that is for dry wood. Sap displacement method, that is for green wood. Butchery method for green wood. So these are all what I am this thing quoted is for the general preservative treatment method. Diffusion process. This can be green and dry wood can be treated with this. This is an economical method and can be used for treating large quantity of material with adequate retention. For this, prepare a solution of higher concentration of diffusible chemicals. That is example 10% boric acid borax in a dipping container. Dip the samples in the solution for 1 week. Then stack the materials closely under non-drying conditions for 10 to 20 days to allow the diffusion of chemicals. Allow the samples to dry for 2 to 3 weeks. Next is pressure method. The main steps followed in the full cell process are preliminary vacuum period, fill the cylinder with the preservatives, then build up the pressure, maximum pressure held to be noted, release the pressure, empty cylinder of the preservative, final vacuum period and release the vacuum. Maximum pressure held has to be, it is depending on the species, whether depending on the treatability of the species. So butchery process. Dr. Boucherie of France developed this process for treating green timber or bamboo. This is most commonly used sap displacement technique where we can treat bamboo quickly in large number. It consists of a storage tank of 30 to 50 liters capacity where preservative solution is stored. At the bottom of the container, a main pipe is attached. The main pipe is attached with a divisible pipe with a stopcock and a rubber tube of different girth, where the pole is supposed to be attached. This is for green condition only. So freshly cut branches with bark and leaves intact are attached to a rubber outlet with their buttons connected to the reservoir containing the preservative solution. An air pressure of 0.5 to 2 kg per meter square is applied on the surface of the preservative in the reservoir. The preservative displaces the sap, which is then forced out to the other end. We can see the color change. The solution of the color, that is from sap to our preservative color, that is colorless to color of the preservative. This process can be carried out within 1 to 3 hours. So we can see the color change, dripping of the colorless sap and the color of the preservative. Advantages of pressure treatment over non-pressure treatment. Deep uniform penetration and absorption can be achieved. It is a faster and more reliable process, more easily controlled and regulated. Conditioning time can be reduced here. So sap displacement method for green bamboos or green poles. Freshly cut debarked poles of varying diameter of bamboo, round or split, are made to stand on their butt ends, submerged to a height of 30 to 40 centimeter in a suitable container containing preservative solution. Nearly 1/4 of the length of the bamboo to be covered with which should be submerged in the preservative solution. After 24 to 48 hours, depending on the length and girth of the poles, it has to be reversed. Sometimes if the length is less, 24 hours is enough. If the length is more, 48 hours is required. And the preservatives pass through the cells and replaces the sap of the poles by weak action. Water-soluble preservatives like CCA, CCB, boric acid or borax can be used. Here, that is organic solvent or oil type we cannot use. Only water-soluble preservative to be used. Next, advantages of sap displacement method. This method is very simple, avoids elaborate treatment procedure, treatment plant and skilled manpower. It can be carried out at the felling site itself. Highly refractory species like casuarina, eucalyptus and bamboo can be easily treated by this method. So conditioning, after all these things, process of treatment, conditioning is very, very important part. After preservative treatment, samples should be allowed to dry under the shade for the proper fixation of preservatives, stacking properly with the crossers for the uniform air circulation to be maintained. This will ensure the fixation of the preservatives inside the wood. So for proper protection, right selection of preservative and method of preservative treatment are the very, very important steps, and proper conditioning. If you follow these three methods, then proper protection is achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Vani. It was really informative. And next up, I would like to invite Mr. Shree Anil Kumar and Shree Sanjay Goyal to share their experience on the topic of wood preservation technologies. Shree Anil Kumarji, I'd like to ask you to come on the screen once more.
We have Dr. Kian Pandey also with us.
Okay.
Okay, so you can call him also.
Okay, so Mr. Kumar, I'll ask you to come later. First, I'll invite Mr. B.N. Pandey since he came earlier as well. Mr. C.N. Pandey, yeah, you're back on screen.
Yeah. Thank you, Mansi.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to Director IWST, KK Pandey and Dr. Singh. We have been in the morning session talking about the seasoning of food. And you know that seasoning is a very highly intensive process. It consumes a lot of energy, and it is already reported that 70% of the processing cost of the timber actually goes for the seasoning of food only. And advantages of seasoning, I think people are very well aware that if we have to export our material or if we have to make our product dimensionally stable and retain its shape and size for a longer period, then moisture has to be brought down. And I think people were already talking about the different zones, up to what level. Generally, there is a question raised that up to what level timber should be seasoned for different regions of the country. And for that, I think there is an Indian standard which speaks about the 4 zones, depending upon the climatic condition, like wherever there is a high humidity, generally we try to keep the higher moisture content of the seasoned wood in comparison to dry region, so that moisture content to the wood remains equilibrium with the surrounding atmospheric condition. So these are some of the advantages. And to ensure that quality of the seasoned timber, I think again somebody was talking about the case hardening, conditioning of timber and testing it for strong taste to ensure that material has been seasoned properly. There is no hidden stresses that are there in the timber, so that after its processing there is no further warping or cracking or all sorts of defects takes place. So that is the advantage of seasoning. But the whole issue is that in spite of knowing the advantages of seasoning, why hardly 7% of the timber in the country is seasoned. Rest goes just by ear seasoning or by just for the namesake material is kept in the seasoning plant and then it is dried. And also it is my observation that hardly there are people who are really trained actually for seasoning the timber as per the Indian standard schedule. People understand that seasoning means just keep it in the seasoning plant and dry it at any whatsoever temperature and humidity. You can achieve the desired moisture content. And that timber actually later on poses a lot of problems, create a lot of problem of warping and all those. Moreover, if the timber has not been seasoned, actually what happens, the surface of the timber is dried, whereas the moisture remains still in the core. And as a result, later on, it creates a lot of problem. So moisture has to be removed in such a way, in a controlled manner. With that purpose only, seasoning schedules have been made. And there are about 7 schedules and timber need to be dried. So what I feel that there is a lack of trained manpower available in the industry. Earlier there used to be a training program at Forest Research Institute, Dehradun. Even in our wood seasoning branch, we used to conduct a 3 months training course where students used to join those starter courses and undergo seasoning, and they used to get the training. But unfortunately, I do not know whether those things are still continuing, because those steam heated kilns are no longer, I think, in working condition. I hope that this type of thing, let it be revived at IWST. IWST should create steam heated seasoning kiln facilities or solar seasoning kiln facilities, or even for that purpose there is another process, dehumidification drying, which is considered to be highly energy conserving process. So if people are trained properly, I think they can definitely serve the industry in a better way, and our product quality can be improved a lot. Because finishing of the material improves a lot if timber is properly seasoned. So these are some of the things which at this stage I think I can convey my observation. And I think there were certain questions which were raised, that what is the relation between fiber saturation point, and I could not listen properly, but I think somebody was talking about, see, if the FSP, what has happened during the process of seasoning, once you dry the timber below FSP, then only you have to be very, very careful. Till you remove it from green condition to fiber saturation point, without much effort, moisture can be removed without putting a lot of energy, and it consumes actually not much energy, and you can do it even at a lower temperature. But to remove the moisture below FSP, one has to be very careful. Otherwise, timber is subjected to all sorts of stresses, and that causes a lot of cracking and all sorts of drying defects. So that is what the message I would like to convey with respect to seasoning of timber. And if there is any question or query and all those things, I would definitely love to reply to anybody. Thank you. Thank you, Mansi.
Most welcome, sir. We will be taking the questions once Mr. Anil Kumar and Mr. Sanjay Goyal share their experience with the wood preservation technologies. We'll be taking the questions right after that.
You want me to make observation on wood preservation?
No. I'm saying that we will be taking questions right after Mr. Anil Kumar and Mr. Sanjay Goyal share their experience, and then we will be taking questions all together.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So I would like to welcome on screen Mr. Anil Kumar once again to share his experience on wood preservation technologies.
Thank you, Mansi. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, once again. So, Mansi, here I would like to say you in practically when we are working in the industries, regarding wood preservation. They are practices somewhere will get good practices or kahin kahin pe just because of formality. Generally, what like Vani told about different preservating method, pressure method, full cell process. So there are so many vendors who are using this method in North India, woodworking furniture factories and furniture exporters. So here I would like to say one thing. अगर हम वुड प्रिजर्वेशन की बात कर रहे हैं तो केमिकल ट्रीटमेंट से पहले इम्पोर्टेंट होता है हमारा स्टोरेज. वुड प्रिजर्वेशन हमारा स्टोरेज से शुरू हो जाता है कि वुड को स्टोरेज कहाँ पे किया गया है. काफी सारी इंडस्ट्रीज में ये देखा गया है कि दे आर डायरेक्टली स्टोरिंग वुड ऑन द ग्राउंड फ्लोर, ऑन ग्राउंड, ऑन soil. There are no concrete flooring or they are not using any kind of pallets. So whether timber is green or whether timber is treated or kiln dry, so they are just storing on the directly on the ground. So we recommend to put it on the pallets or at least on the concrete floor or on at least 4 inches above the ground, just to avoid any infection from the ground for insects and termites if there are any existing. In so many factories which I have seen personally, they are in their floors, they are raw floors of soil, and there are some like termites mounds I have observed in so many industries. Even in one factory in Hyderabad I was visiting, so I found some small mounds of termites on the shop floor on their wood storage, where they were storing their green wood and seasoned wood. So we will recommend, first of all, the storage should be improved. As I told, that there should be concrete flooring and wood should be stacked at least 4 inches above the ground. Number one, whether it's a green wood or treated wood doesn't matter, but it should be always on the pallets on at least 4 inches above the ground. And the second, when we are doing chemical treatment, this is very important thing which I have observed several times. जब हम लोग chemical treatment करते हैं wood का, when we are doing vacuum pressure impregnation treatment in the wood, so there is a water tank. It may be of any capacity, but most of the time it is around 1,000 liter capacity. So what is happening? Suppose day one, the chemical treatment team has prepared one solution in that tank that is around 2.5 to 3% of the concentration as required. And most of the people in North India, they use CCB, or sometimes they're using disodium octaborate and tetrahydrate chemical. These two chemicals are mostly used in, I think, around 70-80% industries, and rest of them are using biplex. So what I'm trying to say you, what the important point when they are making concentrated solution. Suppose day one they have prepared a solution in 1,000 liter of water. They have done one circle of chemical treatment. They have emptied the tank. Then again they are loading another charge of wood. They have done it. I mean, डे वन में मान लिया उन्होंने 2 से 3 ट्रीटमेंट कर चुके हैं, नेक्स्ट डे में फिर से वो उसी सॉल्यूशन के साथ करते रहते हैं. और समटाइम्स इट हैपेंस कि डे 3 में भी वही सॉल्यूशन उनका चलता रहता है, खाली इसमें वो पानी की क्वांटिटी को ऐड कर देते हैं. इन दैट केस व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, द कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ द केमिकल इज गेटिंग लो. Initial for the first day it was around 2.5% to 3%. The next day it will be around it could be around 1.5% or 2%. That day 3. Day third, it will be around 1%. So they are not bothered about the concentration. They are not so technically, or they are not so caring about this quality of the chemical that they can give attention whether they are getting right concentration or not. तो मैं ये चीज हम लोग ये चीजें सही कराते हैं कि अगर आपका डे वन में आपने 3 चार्ज निकाल लिए हैं केमिकल ट्रीटमेंट करके, तो दे हैव टू चेक द कंसंट्रेशन विद द हेल्प ऑफ हाइड्रोमीटर्स. उसके बाद अगर उसमें जरूरत है पानी की क्वांटिटी को ऐड किया जाए या केमिकल की क्वांटिटी को ऐड करके उस कंसंट्रेशन को मेंटेन किया जाए, तभी वो एक इफेक्टिव वुड प्रिजर्वेटिव का काम हमारे लिए करेगा. So this is a very important thing. And the another one, as Vani told in her presentation, कि वुड को ट्रीटमेंट के बाद कंडीशनिंग होने के लिए एक प्रॉपर ऑब्जर्वेशन के लिए कुछ टाइम के लिए इसको विद द हेल्प ऑफ प्रोसेस अंडर शेड रख देना चाहिए. सो वो भी एक इम्पोर्टेंट स्टेप है. और लास्ट में आता है कि ये चेक करना कि हाँ जो प्रेशर अप्लाई किया जा रहा है वो ट्रीटमेंट करने के लिए क्या वो सफिशिएंट है या नहीं भी है. कई बार होता है नोइंगली या फिर अननोइंगली द पीपल दे आर नॉट यूजिंग राइट प्रैक्टिसेस ऑफ अप्लाइंग प्रेशर इन फुल सेल प्रोसेस. तो ये भी देखना होता है कुछ ट्रीटमेंट के बाद की प्रॉपर ऑब्जर्वेशन नहीं है. उसके लिए हम लोग कई बार क्या होता है फ्रेशली कट टिम्बर को काट के भी चेक कर सकते हैं, या फिर उसमें ये भी होता है कि हम लोग कुछ स्पॉट टेस्ट होते हैं, लाइक इन केस ऑफ सीसीबी और डीओटी इट इज अ कर्क्यूमेंट टेस्ट वेयर वी कैन सी द एब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ वुड केमिकल का कितना एब्जॉर्प्शन हुआ है. तो इस तरह से भी चेक कर सकते हैं. और तो स्टोरेज और प्रिजर्वेशन केमिकल का कंसंट्रेशन, ये 2-3 बातें जो लगती हैं मुझे, मैंने एक्सपीरियंस किए शॉप फ्लोर में ड्यूरिंग माय टेन्योर, ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है जिसका हमें ध्यान रखना चाहिए. तो आई थिंक दिस इज फ्रॉम माय साइड. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar. And now I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Gurai on screen to share
Thank
his
you.
experience.
Thank you, Mansi.
Most welcome, sir.
And thank you, IWST and Ply Reporter. And thank you, IWST Director, Dr. Singh, and as well as Dr. KK Pandey, everyone and the August audience. I would like to thank you all and a very good morning to all of you. So I think the previous speakers and previous panelists already shared their experience. So here I will share one presentation and about the, and Mrs. Bani also shared this her presentation also. Here I will share my presentation. What is the good practices and what should be done in the industry? As already discussed, that industry is not following the good practices, and very few industries are following the system, following the good practices. So here I would like to share some good practices which industries should follow. And as already Mrs. Bani shared her presentation, and she has already mentioned about some few basics. So I'll skip there, and I'll be focusing more on the in my experience and what the industry practices. So in my presentations, it includes that what are preservatives, and I'll be talking very less about it because already it is mentioned. Why it should be used, as already mentioned. Benefits of preservation. Available chemical for wood protection in industry. Like there is a lot of chemical available in the industry, but what industry is following, what industry is using, and the suitability of chemicals, it is also covered, but I'll share my view here. And important method of treatment, what industry is following. Especially I'll be talking about North India and the export industry, furniture exporting in industry, because most of these good practices are being followed by export industry because of their clients. Like as already Mr. Anil said, that because of exporting the importers from the USA and Europe, they are pushing our industry to follow this type of good practices and follow the systems. Like again, important like quality assurance and method of testing of treatment wood. Like as Mr. Anil also said that quality assurance, how we assure the quality of the preservation, the treatment method, whether we are doing a right process or not, and the method of testing, like how we will test, because this is a scientific approach. Otherwise the industry is just it's a preconceived mind that okay, it is done. So and then the workers, it depends on the workers experience, and worker experience means it is sometimes workers is experienced, then the quality of the treatment will be good. If the experience is not good from then it will affect the quality of the treatment also. And the chemical concentration for different species, and some precautions to be done during preservations. So what are preservatives? As already mentioned, a chemical or mixture of chemical which gives a desired wood protection without presenting unreasonable risks to people or environment. Like there is a lot of chemical available in the market, but we can't use everything as a wood preservatives. Like as you know, it should not be there should not be any unreasonable risk to environment and people also. Like as you mentioned, the CCA is banned now. It is not industry is not using this because it is harming people and harming the environment. So that's why it is banned now. Why it should be used as already discussed, to enhance the life of the wood, because now we are using the first grown species, and it should be used. The first grown species, we should not we should not waste the material. The first grown, its life cycle, the longevity of the wood should be increased. So to enhance the life of the wood, and because wood is a natural material, there is a lot of decaying agents which decay the wood, and so to enhance the wood life, this wood preservation is needed. Like I'll share some benefits, like already to make the wood durable, to the help to prevent mold, mildew, fungi, termites, insects, borer, etc. This is the decaying agents, and as well as the to enhance the quality of the furniture. Because when, as a wood industry, when we are selling some furniture, and it is going to the customer, they are using it. Maybe after 6 months, there is a borer in the furniture. Then the customer dissatisfaction will be there. So to increase the quality, we should prevent the wood from this type of wood fungi, wood insects, and we need to preserve the wood. Like wood preservation should be done. And it also increase the brand value also. Like why industry in North India are doing these practices? Because brand is involved. Like some international brand, as you know, Westel, Pottery Barn, and in say Crate and Barrel, Jara Home, H&M, all these brands are pushing their exporters, pushing their vendors to follow this system. So I would say that only when the importers are pushing, when the brand is pushing us, then only we'll follow the practice. This is not good. Actually, all industries should follow these practices. And as well as there is another benefits, that is customer satisfaction. When we are selling furniture to our customers, and they are satisfied, then it is good for the brand, good for the company also. This is actually a sustainable method of doing business. Like already Mrs. Bani has already said that what is the wood. I will tell only the available chemical which are used in industry. I will not go into the details. Already Mrs. Bani has mentioned what is the chemicals available. I will only focus on those chemicals which the industry is using. So like creosote well industry is using, like in wood preservative well, like linseed well preservative, some industry is also using this. And in North India, for exporter industry of solid wood furniture, like they are widely used the biflex. And recently, for last 5 years, people has shifted from biflex to few people. I'll not say that everyone has shifted. Few industries, like some of the industry has shifted to borates, like disodium octaborate tetrahydrate. Then here I'll mention why. I'll be sharing my presentation in the later slide, that why people are using disodium octaborate now, and few industries are using the boric acid also. and CCB, copper azole also, but this is very less. Commonly using that biflex and disodium octaborate, and few industries are also doing borax boric acid also. So then we'll discuss that suitability of the chemical as wood preservative. Like why industry will follow one chemical as a wood preservative, because as already discussed in the earlier session also, that there is a mindset चलता है कि चल जाएगा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. तो then there is another mentality कि why will increase the cost. This is what I feel, that why will increase the cost. This is another mindset where people are hindered to use this type of practices like wood preservation. So the suitability of the chemical depends on the low cost and availability. Like if the chemical is low cost and it is available, then industry will use. And like in terms of regulations and in terms of importing regulations in other countries, there should be, and it should be less mammalian toxicity, as already discussed, and easily paintable. Like some preservatives is there where what happen, we can it is being treated with the chemical, but you can't, the wood color is changed, so it is not suitable for the industry and suitable for the furniture, because I think I'll say that there is some case it can be used, but when in some cases it is not being used. Like non-corrosive to metal, because in furniture industry we use screws, nails. So if the screw nails are corroded later on, then what will happen? So that type of chemical will not be used. And like the chemical which gives a wide coverage to the wood decaying agents, all types of wood decaying agents, people will only follow those type of chemicals, and they're easy to use. Like there is lots of chemical which is available in the market, but it is not user friendly, like not easy to use for the industry. So they will not follow that one. And one more thing, that's ad hoc testing. Ad hoc testing means now when we are quality concerned, so what will happen if some chemical we use for wood preservative, but you can't taste that. So what will happen? Then you can't control the quality also, whether the worker has used this one or not. Like Mr. Anil said that what happened कि पहले दिन chemical किया है, उसके बाद second दिन में पता कैसे चलेगा कि वो कितने percentage से किया था, या either whether किया कि नहीं किया. जैसे कि इंडस्ट्री में बाइफ्लेक्स से शिफ्ट होके लोग डाइसोडियम ऑक्टाबोरेट की तरफ क्यों जा रहे हैं? कारण क्या है कि बाइफ्लेक्स का एडहॉक टेस्टिंग नहीं है. अगर बाइफ्लेक्स का मुझे टेस्टिंग कराना है वेदर वुड इज ट्रीटेड और नॉट, तो देन आई हैव टू सेंड सैंपल टू लैब. तो लैब विल टेक टाइम, एंड and this is not feasible for the industry also. So क्या हो रहा है, क्लाइंट्स धीरे धीरे डाइसोडियम ऑक्टाबोरेट की तरफ, दैट मींस बोरोन की तरफ शिफ्ट हो रहा है. क्यों? क्योंकि बोरोन का एडहॉक टेस्टिंग बहुत ही इजी है. कोई भी इंडस्ट्री कोई भी अगर चाहे तो उसको इंडस्ट्री में इमीडिएटली विद इन हाफ एन आवर वो टेस्ट करके बता सकते हैं कि वेदर बोरोन इज पेनिट्रेटेड और नॉट. So this is the, and here I will share some details that in industry में जो chemicals जो preservatives use हो रहा है, उसका क्या है जियोग्राफिकल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, कहाँ रिस्ट्रिक्शन है, एंड क्या एडवांटेजेस है और क्या डिसएडवांटेजेस है. जैसे कि हमारा है क्रियोजोट ट्वेल, ये थ्रू आउट द वर्ल्ड यूज होता है. ठीक है, ऐसा कोई रेस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है. लिंसी ट्वेल का भी पूरे इंडस्ट्री में यूज होता है, कोई रेस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है. और एडवांटेजेस क्या है, यूजफुल इन रफ एप्लीकेशन ओनली। जैसे कि क्रियोजोट ऑयल है, इसका कलर डार्क कलर होता है, इसमें स्मेल रहता है, तो जैसे कि कोई लॉग को ट्रीट करना है देन क्रियोजोट ऑयल यूज होता है। बट इसका डिसएडवांटेज क्या है? डिसएडवांटेज है जब मेरे को कोई इंडोर यूज में यूज करना होगा तो आई कांट यूज दिस वन, बैड स्मेल। कोई वैल्यूएबल वुड के ऊपर करना होगा तो इंडस्ट्री कांट डू दैट। अगेन लिनसीड ऑयल क्या है, लिनसीड ऑयल को यूज तो करते हैं, दिस इज एडवांटेजेस नेचुरल प्रोडक्ट है, लेकिन ये कोई बायोलॉजिकल एक्शंस में बहुत ज्यादा इसका रिपेलेंट नहीं, ये ओनली वाटर रिपेलेंट है, इफेक्टिव एज अ वाटर रिपेलेंट। ये बायोलॉजिकल एक्शंस में बहुत ज्यादा इसका कंट्रीब्यूशन नहीं है, तो इसलिए क्या होता है कि हमेशा हर जगह पे यूज नहीं कर सकते। अगेन बाइफ्लेक्स, सो बाइफ्लेक्स के लिए क्या है, जैसे कि ये पॉपुलर का यूएसए, न्यूजीलैंड, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, इस कंट्री में जो इंपोर्ट करते हैं वो लोग बाइफ्लेक्स से ट्रीटेड एक्सेप्ट करते हैं, लेकिन यूरोप में रेस्ट्रिक्शन है। ये इसका एडवांटेजेस, जैसे एडवांटेज क्यों इंडस्ट्री बाइफ्लेक्स की तरफ गई है या बाइफ्लेक्स क्यों यूज करते हैं, जैसे इसका कॉस्ट कम है, जैसे कॉन्सेंट्रेशन कम यूज करना पड़ता है तो इसलिए। लेकिन इसका डिसएडवांटेजेस क्या है, क्यों यूरोप ने इसको बैन किया है, यूरोप ने इसको यूज रेस्ट्रिक्ट करते हैं। जैसे टॉक्सिक, इट इज टॉक्सिक टू मैमेलियन, this is very toxic mammalian as well as for fishes also the water, the fish वगैरह इनके लिए भी है। इसमें इचिंग इशू, मतलब जो इसमें प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपीरियंस है कि जो वर्कर्स इसको यूज करते हैं उनके हाथ में इचिंग होता है, तो वो धीरे धीरे, इसलिए लोग धीरे धीरे शिफ्ट कर रहे हैं। और जैसे मैंने पहले डिस्कस किया है कि इसका एड हॉक टेस्टिंग कुछ नहीं है, तो इसीलिए ये है बाइफ्लेक्स टीसी के जगह अब नेक्स्ट आते हैं बोराक्स बोरिक एसिड एंड डीओटी, लाइक डाइसोडियम ऑक्टाबोरेट टेट्राहाइड्रेट। बोराक्स बोरिक एसिड भी लोग यूज करते हैं, और अभी जैसे रिसेंट एज प्रिजर्वेटिव that is disodium octaborate, ये थ्रू आउट द वर्ल्ड यूज हो रहा है, ऐसे कोई एज सच कोई रेस्ट्रिक्शंस भी नहीं है। इसका कारण एडवांटेजेस क्या है, लेस मैमेलियन टॉक्सिसिटी, डू नॉट इट नेवर चेंजेस द कलर ऑफ द वुड आफ्टर ट्रीटमेंट, देयर इज नो कलर चेंज, and it gives some fire retardant property also, and it is non corrosive to metal. एंड डिसएडवांटेज क्या है कि ये थोड़ा सा कॉस्टली है अभी इंडस्ट्री के लिए, और इसका जो बोरोन कंटेंट है इसमें और एक इसका एडवांटेजेस है, जैसे कि इसका जो बोरोन कंटेंट इट इज 20.9%, वेदर बोरिक एसिड का जो बोरोन कंटेंट है, आई थिंक I'll share in the and this actual figure I will share. बोराक्स का जो बोरोन का परसेंटेज है 11.4%, एंड बोरिक एसिड का जो बोरोन कंटेंट है दैट इज 7.48%. सो कंपैरेटिवली डाइसोडियम ऑक्टाबोरेट टेट्राहाइड्रेट का बोरोन परसेंटेज ज्यादा है. So next I will share some important method of treatment. Here I will only focusing about the full cell method. This is the method which industry should. This is the I think according to the available methods, it is the good method. It is the best method I can say, and in industry should follow this one. Definitely there is some disadvantages also. It is capital intensive, but still I'll recommend that this process should be followed. Like without pressure treatment, what the brushing, spraying, dipping is the process industry follows. but as of now, as industry is growing, we should follow the pressure treatment method. There is full cell method. What is in full cell method? What happens here? I have shared one graph here where initially there is a vacuum. I will set the photographs also of this treatment plant. So initially there is a vacuum applied in the after loading the chamber. So I'll go to the chamber. What is here? You can say the chamber. First chamber is loaded, then a vacuum is applied. Vacuum is applied around it's a 600 mm of Ag, and for 30 minutes. And after that, when vacuum applied, after that, so what happened? Chemicals is impregnated. Like there is this tank. There is a lock here. So after vacuum is done, then chemical impregnation is being done. After chemical impregnations, this lock this lock is being again locked, and pressure is being done. For industry practices क्या होता है कि जैसे कि generally जो industry use करते हैं 1 इंच का लकड़ी, 2 इंच का लकड़ी या 1 इंच का लकड़ी, 1.5 और 2 in general, तो एक इंच के लिए अराउंड 2 आवर यूज करते हैं. 2 आवर प्रेशर. 1.5 इंच के लिए 2.5 घंटे का 2.3 लगता है, 2.5 घंटे का प्रेशर यूज करते हैं. और 2 इंच के लिए 3 घंटे की प्रेशर. एंड देन आफ्टर दैट 15 मिनट की वैक्यूम. सो ये है प्रोसेस पूरा. मतलब ये है मेथड. इसको प्रेशर ट्रीटमेंट से फूड प्रिजर्वेशन करने के लिए. लाइक ऑलरेडी जैसे अनिल जी ने भी कहा है कि ग्रीन वुड को नीचे नहीं रखना चाहिए. I totally agree with, and I'll repeat his experience also here. That और इसमें आप देख सकते हैं कि ये लोडिंग इस तरीके से किया जाता है ताकि इजी लोडिंग हो. 1000 CFT का जनरली जो VPI टैंक होते हैं वो ज्यादा भी हो सकते हैं, बट वाइडली अभी नॉर्थ इंडिया में जो यूज होते हैं वो 1000 CFT का यूज होता है. मतलब 1000 CFT वुड लोड होगा. तो ऐसे 2 या 3 अलग अलग ऐसे लोडिंग पॉइंट लोडिंग इक्विपमेंट होते हैं जिसके अंदर में वुड को लोड करके डायरेक्टली VPI टैंक के अंदर डाला जाता है. आप इसमें ये वैक्यूम इन दिस.
संजय, सॉरी, ये डिटेल्स यू प्लीज स्किप दिस डिटेल्स.
Okay,
thank you.
So let's move forward for quality assurance and method of testing. Like here I will only share about the penetration and retention of disodium octabolate, that is boron. You can see in this photograph that is well penetrated. This is well penetrated, and this is not penetrated. So where we have to be this is the quality control we have to follow. Like there should be fully penetrated. So penetration के लिए हम जो चेक करते हैं जैसे कि spot test for boron penetration में it's very easy. Like 2 type of solution बनाते हैं. It is mentioned in BIS also, BIS Indian Standard 40401. 10 ग्राम का टर्मरिक, हल्दी टर्मरिक is extracted with 90 gram of ethyl alcohol, and it is filtered to obtain a clear solution. and solution number 2, there is 20 ml of concentrated hydrochloric acid is diluted to 100 ml with ethyl alcohol, and it's salicylic, उसमें 13 ग्राम salicylic acid around, मतलब ये 100 ml के लिए बात कर रहा हूँ, 13 ग्राम की salicylic acid करके उसको सैचुरेटेड किया जाता है। पहले सॉल्यूशन नंबर 1 यूज किया जाता है, देन सॉल्यूशन नंबर 2। अगर ये लाल हो रहा है, दैट इज कलर इज कमिंग टू रेड, देन इट इज then you can say that wood is treated properly. If it is not like in the photographs, earlier photographs I have said, if it is not turned to red color, then it is not treated properly. So this is the practices which I will say that every industry should follow for a better quality control, like retention, calculation of retentions. इंडस्ट्री के पास रिकॉर्ड होना चाहिए कि वो रिटेंशंस जितने भी लॉट्स का कर रहे हैं उसका रिटेंशंस की फॉर डेटा, रिटेंशंस की डेटा मेंटेन होनी चाहिए कि डेली का बाय डे टू डे क्या क्या रिटेंशंस रहा है, वेदर इट इज एक्चुअल, मतलब रिटेंशन सही से हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है, ये भी फॉलो होना चाहिए। एंड अगेन लाइक मैं अभी यहाँ अनिल जी का जो एक्सपीरियंस था वही मैं यहाँ पे बोलूंगा। जो अनिल जी का जो कंसर्न था कि इंडस्ट्री के क्या होता है कि मतलब शुरू में उन्होंने शुरू में 3% से या 4% से किया है, अगले दिन के जब टॉप अप कर रहे हैं तो वेदर इट इज मेंटेन, वेदर द केमिकल कंसंट्रेशन इज मेंटेन्ड और नॉट, तो इसके लिए भी वेरी बहुत ही एक सस्ता इक्विपमेंट है हाइड्रोमीटर, बट ये मोस्ट ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री इज नॉट यूजिंग दिस। सिंपल हाइड्रोमीटर से पता चलेगा कि वेदर the concentration is actual or whether the concentration is required concentration or it is less. And सबसे लास्ट में मैं कुछ प्रिकॉशंस, मतलब क्या प्रिकॉशंस लेना चाहिए या क्या प्रिकॉशंस होना चाहिए इस पूरे प्रोसेस में, जैसे कि जो VPI टैंक है उसका प्रॉपर टाइमली एंड रेगुलर चेक कि उसके अंदर में प्रेशर जाता है, तो इनकेस अगर कोई एक्सीडेंट होगा, दैट मींस कोई एक्सीडेंट होता है तो इट कैन क्रिएट अ ह्यूज हार्म। सो ये इसका एक चेक पॉइंट्स होना चाहिए कि इसको टाइमली चेक करना और उसका कैलिब्रेशंस भी करना, जैसे कि प्रेशर गज है, वैक्यूम गज है, उसका टाइमली कैलिब्रेशंस इट शुड बी डन ऑन टाइमली मैनर, सो दैट कि उसका क्वालिटी कंट्रोल सही रहे, क्योंकि मेरा वैक्यूम और प्रेशर अगर सही नहीं रहेगा तो पेनिट्रेशन सही नहीं रहेगा। सो दिस इज द पॉइंट्स वेयर इंडस्ट्री शुड थिंक, एंड इंडस्ट्री बहुत ही सिंपल थिंग है, बट हमारे इग्नोरेंस के कारण हम उसको नहीं यूज करते हैं, एंड वेरी सिंपल, मतलब बहुत महंगा भी नहीं है ये सब। एंड क्लीनिंग ऑफ केमिकल टैंक ऑन टाइमली मैनर, लाइक क्या करते हैं कि लोग एक दिन ट्रीटमेंट किया, क्योंकि जो एक्सेस केमिकल है एक बार उसको भरने के बाद दोबारा उस केमिकल वापस उसी टैंक में जाता है, तो वुड के अंदर में जो गंदगी थी, वुड के अंदर में जो सॉडास्ट था, वो अंदर दोबारा वापस चले जाते हैं। तो उसको क्लीनिंग नहीं करेंगे तो क्या होगा कि नेक्स्ट टाइम जो केमिकल आएगा उसका कंसंट्रेशन, मतलब वो उसमें इम्प्यूरिटीज बहुत ज्यादा हो गया है, तो इम्प्यूरिटीज क्या करेगा, उसका जो पेनिट्रेशन को हिंडर करेगा, अल्टीमेटली क्वालिटी कंट्रोल में मतलब उसका जो डिजायर्ड क्वालिटी है वो डिजायर्ड क्वालिटी मेरे को मिलेगा नहीं। सो ये सब क्लीनिंग होना चाहिए टाइमली, एंड प्रीसाइज कैलकुलेशन ऑफ टॉप अप ऑफ केमिकल। जैसे अनिल जी ने कहा है कि जब नेक्स्ट दिन, आज मेरे 3 साइकिल्स हो गया है आज पूरे दिन में, तो नेक्स्ट डे जब मैं केमिकल का टॉप अप करूंगा तो सिर्फ पानी नहीं ऐड करूंगा, या जितना पानी में ऐड कर रहा हूँ, जैसे 1000 लीटर का पानी है तो अभी हो सकता है पूरा तो पानी खत्म होता नहीं है, सो 100 लीटर पानी अभी भी मेरे नीचे पड़ा है, तो दैट इज 100 लीटर इज केमिकल मिक्स्ड वाटर, एंड जो 900 लीटर पानी में ऐड कर रहा हूँ, उस 900 लीटर के, जैसे कि उस 900 लीटर के लिए मेरे को जितना सॉल्यूशंस, दैट इज जो केमिकल मेरे को ऐड करना है, मैं उतना ही करूंगा, दैट इज, तो यहाँ पे क्या आता है कि लोग 1000 लीटर के लिए कैलकुलेशन है कि 2%, तो 1000 कैलकुलेशन गलती से 1000 लीटर के लिए कर देते हैं, लेकिन कैलकुलेशन 1000 लीटर के लिए नहीं होना चाहिए, कैलकुलेशन होना चाहिए कि 900 मैं ऐड कितना कर रहा हूँ, कि ऑलरेडी 100 लीटर केमिकल मिक्स्ड पानी मेरे पास है, सो मेरे को बस 900 लीटर पानी के लिए उसको कैलकुलेशन करना है। देन अगेन यूज ऑफ पीपी।
Sorry, Sanjay.
Yeah.
Sanjay, please conclude now.
Okay. Okay, I think it is already concluded.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjay Gure. I think Mr. Dwara Ramakrishna has a question. He has raised his hand. Mr. Ramakrishna, you need to unmute your mic.
Yes. Ma'am, it's not, I mean, a question, just a small, I mean, statement from my side. Can I say right now or not?
Sure, please.
Actually, of course, I've been, I mean, listening to the speeches given by eminent scientists. Sir, I mean, by the wood treatment by solar system will solve the problem to the extent of 50% of the way. I'm telling you. No, and as regards, I mean, chemical treatment will almost attract problems by the pollution control, PCB. Hello? Okay.
So you're audible.
Okay. Chemical treatment by chemical will almost attract here. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
It's getting guys. Chemical treatment will almost attract problems from the PCB, pollution control wall. I would like to say the ground reality is totally different from the lab reality. So what I would like to suggest is, let us take, suppose, as in the case of, as regards the usage of pesticides in our, I mean, farming system, that is green, how we achieved green revolution? By taking the advantage of various, I mean, advertising agencies, All India Radio, TV and all these things. So in the same way, let the community, let the, I mean, industry and as well as the scientific community take the issue to the end user. Hello, could you be able to observe me? Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Now, my presentation is that the achievements done by the the achievements done by the scientific community is almost confined to the four walls of your laboratory. It should reach the end user, and the end user must also be satisfied. Suppose one instance I would like to tell you. Semul, I mean, somebody has quoted about Semul. Our IWST in the year in 90s, or I mean before 2000, tried to propagate usage of Seba, Bombat Seba in the case of catamarans. Now, those fishermen did not accept the version of our director, then director C. K.S. Rao. Then Shree, they brought all the catamaran people, the fisher community people to my unit. I physically explained all these things along with Mr. K.S. Rao. Then they accepted those catamarans. They did well for, I mean, more than 2 decades. So in the same way, it should reach the end user. That's most important now in our country. For that, I mean, we have to take the assistance of various, I mean, ad agencies by which are, I mean, Doordarshan and All India Radio and all these things. That's one suggestion. And chemical treatment is not at all, I mean, necessary in number of cases. When dried wood, if you use, that will solve a number of problems, ma'am. That's only my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramakrishna. Okay, so now I would be taking questions. So if anyone has any question, they can raise their hand. And Mr. C.N. Vani, Mr. Anil Kumar, Mr. C.N. Pandey, and Mr. Sanjay Gorai, they will be taking all your questions and they will be answering side by side. So if anyone has any questions right now, they can raise their hands, or I've got some questions from Facebook and a suggestion for Dr. MP Singh. So Dr. MP Singh, if you're here, should I recite you the suggestion that I've got from Facebook by Mr. Subhash Jolly?
Okay.
So the suggestion is, as you mentioned, India imports teak to the tune of close to 10,000 crores rupees. That's a huge value, but our government is interested to allow imports and seems not allowing to grow teak in large scale as there is a ban on cutting. So this is more like it was an addressal to you by Mr. Subhash Jolly. He quoted one of your statements that you mentioned while you were speaking in the beginning of the session. So I think he would like you to clarify, like, why is the government not allowing to grow teak in large scale, and why they're spending such huge amount on imports while we can grow teak in our own country?
Actually, very good afternoon, Subhash Jolly ji. In fact, we are going in that direction, and we are for the policy changes which promotes growing of trees outside forest. And from the Indian forest, there has been decline in the production of the teak, and that is why we are importing teak from outside. And we have some production from the agroforestry, but not on the scale which we expect. So it is a long rotation crop. So we need to move in that direction. So we are working on that, and even the government wants that the production of teak should happen from the Indian farmers. So in fact, we have taken up with the Karnataka government also, because they have now we are trying to have an app from which we can capture what is the availability of teak with the farmers. So if we can have that assessment, then we can promote the marketing of teak from the farmers itself. So we are going in that direction. It will take some time. Thank you for raising the concern.
So now I would like to invite Mrs. C.N. Vani, Mr. Anil Kumar, Mr. Sanjay Gurai back on screen, as there are a few questions for them from Facebook. And I'll also invite Mr. C.N. Pandey on the screen. There are a few questions, so I would like them to answer all these questions. So the first one here, it says there is speculation and talk in the market that the efficacy of Bifenthrin against termites is getting reduced. Is it true? Does Bifenthrin need a recalibration of efficacy? So if any one of the four of you would like to answer this question, please unmute your mic and then you can just simply answer. It's a question by Mr. Vaidyanath, by the way.
Can you please repeat the question, Mansi?
Sure, sir. It is, there is speculation and talk in the market that the efficacy of Bifenthrin against termites is getting reduced. Is it true? Does Bifenthrin need a recalibration of efficacy?
In fact, some work has already been done at ICFRE, and Bifenthrin has been tested against termite and other attack. That also in the field trial. And I have not come across any such observation till now, till I was in ICFRE, but afterwards I do not know. I think best answer we can receive it from a director ICFRE, who will be able to answer about this thing. But I think many industries are using Bifenthrin for protecting the wood, and even in the case of veneer also, plywood industry, there are some big industries in the country, they are using the Bifenthrin.
All right, sir. So would you like to comment, any one of you would like to comment on this? Any one of you would like to answer or maybe continue this question? Maybe continue answering this question, Mr. Anil Kumar or Mr. Sanjay Guri or Mrs. Vani, if you're here. Okay, so I'll take the other question. It is for Dr. C.N. Pandey again. It says, what is the contribution of Dr. C.N. Pandey and other associate members of BIS to BIS in improving the standards relevant to plywood and wood? What is their experience that will enormously support the wooden sector as a whole? This is a question by Muthu Kumar Arunachalam. And if any one of you would like to answer this question.
Can you repeat it?
It says, what is the contribution of Dr. C.N. Pandey and other associated members of BIS to BIS in improving the standards relevant to plywood and wood? Their experience will enormously support the wooden sector as a whole.
Oh, that is a very general question. Let us not take this question. Please.
Sure, we can skip it. Sure, no problem, sir.
You want me to answer?
If you're comfortable answering this question, sure, you can answer it. Otherwise, we can skip it to the next question.
See, time to time, you know that there is always scope for improving the quality parameters. And those quality parameters, unless or until incorporated in the standards, our product will not conform to BIS quality parameters. Of late, and I think recently during the directorship of Dr. MP Singh, when he was director of ICFRE, during his period only we took up one modification, or we can say that improvement in the standard of MDF, and we wanted to bring it to the level of ISO standards. And on behalf of, I think, FIPI, we arranged it to take up the study at ICFRE. And I can only tell you that how difficult was from the industry side actually to sponsor this project, but somehow because of association, my association with some of the good industry, we could resolve this issue, and then finally standard has been made and it has been published also. So this is one example I am telling, and we have been, if any industry has any problem with the standard or looking some improvement in the process, or some new development has taken place, they wanted to get it incorporated. That way, I think FIPI is already a recognized body, and on behalf of FIPI, we always take up this standardization work in collaboration with BIS. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pandey. In fact, we have opened suggestions for all the standards with the BIS. So it is all open. Anyone can give the suggestions, and then the committee will take up the study and then incorporate in the, if the suggestions are found suitable, and the industry also, the stakeholders, they give positive response, then that can be incorporated in the standards. So we have opened all the standards for the suggestions of the public. Okay, so it is a very ongoing process. Thank you for the answer, Dr. Pandey.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pandey, and thank you so much, Dr. Singh. Now, I would like to take this session.
Mansi, sorry, because we are running out of time, so maybe we can take those questions at the end, or we will.
Right.
We will, if time doesn't permit, we will communicate answers through email.
Right.
So we can move on to the next session, and I have a request because Mr. Sanjay Goyal has to leave for another meeting, so we can have his presentation first.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll move on to the next segment of this session, which is wood modification technologies, with esteemed speakers like Dr. S.R. Shukla from IWST, Dr. Andy Pittman from Lignia Wood, and Mr. Sanjay Goyal, Jai Bhavani Plywood Center from Secunderabad. First off, I would like to invite Dr. S.R. Shukla to share his presentation on wood modification technologies.
Yeah, Mansi, we can have first lecture from Sanjay Goyal because he has to leave for another meeting.
No problem. So first I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Goyal to share his presentation.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for understanding that I have to leave for another meeting. So Thank you for allowing me to have my presentation first. See, basically, we are from Hyderabad. We have started a company called DAF. It's basically doors and frames. It is situated just outside Hyderabad, around 30 kilometers outside Hyderabad. So, this is the location map of our factory. So basically, we as I earlier spoke about seasoning. Seasoning was one of the factors that was there. But seasoning.
Mr. Sanjay Goyal, I'd like to excuse you for a minute. Your screen, you have not shared it yet. We cannot see your presentation.
Just a minute.
Sure.
Is it shared now?
No, not yet. Just press on the share screen option available there in green color on the bottom, and through there you can share your screen.
Is it shared now?
No, sir, not yet.
Can you give me a minute? I'll get back.
Sure. You can try stop sharing your screen once, and then you can reshare once again. Try stop sharing. Yeah, it is shared now.
It's shared now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is the location of my factory. Basically, Basically, I was, as I told earlier, that I was into processing of wood and timber product, and we were doing a lot of timber product related products, but we were having problems. So we started with seasoning. Now, seasoning is also one of the factors which is not 100% assured. We still have a lot of problems while seasoning. Seasoning does not guarantee that there would be, it will remain constant for a longer period of time. Seasoning has its own advantage, but it has some disadvantages, like if it is not properly seasoned, you will have a problem. If it is, it has a lot of problems. So I was looking at another system wherein we can have more better treatment, and I stumbled upon thermal modification of timber. Now, what is thermal modification of timber? The thermal modification of timber is actually heating the timber and taking it slowly from atmospheric level to almost 230 degree temperature under controlled atmosphere in the absence of oxygen. And it is one of the simplest and most...
Sanjay ji, your screen is not, slide is not visible, it's blank. Can you go to the next slide then?
Is it visible now?
No, it is not visible. I think you will have to stop sharing once again and then try resharing it. Your screen is completely blank right now. You need to stop sharing your screen once and then maybe reshare your screen again.
Or we can share from here if it is not possible. I think I have your presentation, Sanjay ji.
IWST, if you have Sanjay sir's presentation, you can share the screen and then he can present it.
Is it available now?
Yeah, it is visible. Yes.
Okay. Fine. So, as I was telling you that this is one of the most simplest and easiest way of treating wood. Basically, it is in controlled atmosphere wherein you do not have oxygen, and it's basically only heat and steam that are used. Like our earlier guest was telling that you can do thermal chemical treatments and all those things. Chemical treatment is also a process, but it is a process which were used earlier. In chemical process, there are again a lot of disadvantages, like sometimes there is an odor which is very irritating and can be unhygienic. or there is discoloration of timber that happens. So there are a lot of other factors which are there in chemical treatment. In this particular treatment, the best thing is that there is absolutely no chemical that is being introduced. It is basically only steam and heat. And once you do this treatment, it is a three-step process. Basically, initially, when the average temperature is kept at around 80 to 100-degree temperature for almost like 13 to 15 hours, so that the timber doesn't immediately starts cracking and it doesn't bend and warp, because it needs to stabilize. The moisture needs to come out of the timber slowly and accurately. Once we are sure that the timber has stabilized in the chamber, we increase the temperature from 100 degree to take it almost like 190 to 230-degree temperature, where we keep it for 4 to 8 hours, depending on what are the species that we are doing. Once that is completed, we then start the third phase, wherein we start cooling down and moisturizing it. Remoisturizing it is one of the most important factor, because if we do not remoisturize it, the timber generally tends to become very brittle and has the tendency it can break up. So remoisturing is done during the cooling period. This is the machine that we have. We have imported this machine. We are currently having around 4 CBM per shift machine. That means we can do 4 CBM at a shot. The better part of the treatment is you can actually control the color of the timber. You can choose what kind of color that you need. And also the better part is the color that is being done is completely uniform. It doesn't have patches or something like that. The color is completely uniform throughout the length and width of the species. And you can choose whatever color you want. The benefits, as people know, that lowered equilibrium moisture content of thermowood makes it dimensionally very stable, and the material retains its shape far better than untreated wood, and it retains itself for a very long period of time. The outstanding dimensional stability allows thermowood to be successfully used in all climates. It is that not that you can use it in south and you cannot use it in north, or you can use it in the east or west. You can use it in anywhere. Once a thermowood treatment is done, thermally modified timber is being produced, it can be used in any kind of atmosphere, whether it is a rainy atmosphere or cold atmosphere or hot atmosphere. It doesn't make any difference to the timber. When wood is treated with heat, its average lifespan is actually prolonged. It will depend on exact heat the wood exposed to. Like species to species, it will vary. Generally, we have been doing a lot of mango, neem, mango, neem, pine. We have been continuously doing, and we have got very good results out of it. We have been commercially trading it now, and we've been doing some projects which I'll show you in the end of my presentation. This chemically modified wood doesn't react much to either the temperature or the humidity. It takes all challenges and it remains stable. The better part of it is because it is heated at such high temperatures, there are actually no resins left in the timber. As you know, the timber, when it is in the raw stage, and even though after seasoning, the resins and glucose content in the timber remains inside, it doesn't come out. But during thermo treatment, because of the heat, the entire resin or the glucose, whatever is present in the timber, it is thrown out of the timber. It melts and oozes out of the timber, and whatever is left is pure timber. It doesn't have any resin or any glucose. Hence, that assures that there is no glucose present for the termites to come and react and eat it. So when there is no termite, chemical, no glucose inside, then the termite doesn't come and attack to it. Now, basically, what are the properties of thermowood? It improves durability against decay, reduce thermal conductivity. All the entire resin in the timber present is removed, reduce splitting strength, reduce slightly bending strength, improve dimension stability, consistent color. This is one of the very important factor because it looks fabulous once you treat it. Even if you take timber like mango or neem, it looks very fabulous because it comes with a very beautiful color and the color is consistent. Reduced equilibrium moisture content. Thermowood applications. Where can we use thermowood? Technically specific, you can use thermowood anywhere. Wherever you can think you can use thermowood. You can use it externally for claddings, deckings, facade levels, interiors. You can use it for interior cladding, sonars, furniture, flooring, or any else application that you can think of. You can use thermowood. Thermowood will remain stable continuously throughout a very long period of time. I'd like to just put some of the projects that we have done in Hyderabad, in and around Hyderabad. Like this is one of the house wherein we have used thermowood exterior. I'm showing you most of the exterior projects. This is one of the bungalows where we have used thermowood in exterior. These are some interior places where we have used thermowood. This is one of the showrooms where we have used thermowood. We have shaded it to different colors. We have used thermowood in the flooring also, just to show you. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goyal. The session is getting really interesting right now, I think. So now I would like to invite Dr. S.R. Shukla to share his presentation on wood modification technologies. Dr. S.R. Shukla. I think you need to unmute your mic.
Mic is unmuted.
Yeah, now, just now. Sure.
Yeah. Good afternoon, one and all. My presentation, I am going to be very brief while talking about the wood modification, a brief overview of the technologies which are existing in this area. As we have already talked about conventional or traditional primary timbers like teak, sal, sisam, they have been used in Indian environment since many years, but now because of their great demand and lesser availability and higher price, they are not being available much in the market, and we have to depend on the plantation timbers. As our director also underlined in the inaugural address, that we are importing a lot of wood from different countries, and particularly teak. And we are also depending on the trees outside of the forest, and these are the plantation fast grown timbers which are being used particularly for construction, furniture, and composite panel industries. So here is the list of the short rotation plantation timbers which are mostly available in our country. And because these are short rotation and fast grown, so they contain a lot of amount of sapwood. And sapwood is not durable because unlike the hardwood, which is present in the very small quantity in the plantation timbers. So, and the quality of the sapwood is not up to the mark to be used directly without any processing to the different industry sectors. So, this kind of wood need to be improved, and this is where the wood modification comes into the picture. Here just I have shown the amount of sapwood which is mostly present in most of the plantation timbers. Its quantity is quite high, and it is non-durable, as I told, and earlier speakers also clearly told that preservative treatments are required for, but most of the time these chemicals are hazardous and they are not environmental friendly, and the properties of are also not up to the mark, so we have to go for the wood modification. Here are some deficiencies in the plantation timbers, like they contain high amount of sapwood. Because of that, the color is light, and durability is a question because it remains susceptible for the rot and fungus attack. It contains a high amount of juvenile wood that gives the variability in the density, excessive shrinkage and swelling, which leads to dimensional instability, and finally comes to warping and cracking in the wood. So we need to have the wood modification. Here is the definition of wood modification. What it involves is the action of a chemical, biological or physical agent upon the material, resulting in permanent change to the polymeric chemical composition, with such a change leading to a desired property enhancement. So this is where we are targeting, that we need to change the chemical structure of the wood, and the modified wood should itself be non-toxic under service conditions, and furthermore there should be no release of any toxic substances during service or at the end of the following disposal. So when we want to dispose of the modified wood, it should not create any kind of hazardous effect on the environment as well as the human life. So unlike the chemical treated wood, nowadays CCA treated wood has become a real nuisance in Europe and North America, where it is very difficult to dispose of CCA treated wood. These are the importance of wood modification. Like it improves the performance of wood by modifying its molecular structure. The potential property improvement, like wood becomes moisture resistant, it becomes dimensionally stable, durability increases against the termite and borer and fungus, color and resistant to UV radiation. It also becomes weather resistant, and it takes the paint and adhesives in a proper way. Absolutely no problem. And also it creates new market for the local timber, like plantation timbers which are locally grown can be modified either by chemical process or by physical process, and then it gives the sustainability to the timber resources, and also provides an alternate to the conventional tropical hardwoods. This is just a microstructure of the wood, so I will not go into the detail, but here we are just to pinpoint that in the when we do the modification, either we target the lumen in the fiber or the cell wall. These two are the areas where we have to do the major modification, and then it creates a kind of cross-linking within the polymers of the wood and gives the better quality wood. There are different modification classes, like chemical modification and impregnation, thermal modification, as Mr. Sanjay Goyal has already talked about that, and then enzymatic modification. These are 4 different classes. Chemical modification is like acetylation and fertilization comes in this class of modification. Impregnation and polymerization, like next speaker, Mr. Andy Pittman, he is going to talk about this impregnation and polymerization. Thermal modification, already Mr. Sanjay Goyal has talked about, and enzymatic modification, it has already been done, but no commercial method is adopted. Just to give a brief about acetylation, here acetic anhydride is taken as a primary chemical to treat the wood, and this method is adapted in particularly in Europe, and India is also importing a lot of this chemically treated wood in the name of Akoya, Titan wood, and it is commercially available. And next is the fertilization. This fertile alcohol is a plant-based material. It is eco-friendly material, and it is vaporized alcohol treated wood is also available in the name of Kiboni wood, and it is being used in different industry sectors. Then thermal treatment, as Mr. Sanjay Goyal has already given details about this. We have to subject the wood to a very high temperature in the range of 180 to 200 degrees centigrade in absence of the oxygen environment, and then wood changes its color and becomes dimensionally stable and also much more durable compared to untreated wood. And then impregnation and polymerization. I will not talk much about this because Andy Pittman is going to give a better insight of the industry and also the process. This is one of the chemical. It is called the dimethyl dihydroxyethylene urea, DMDHEU, which is being used as a commercial Bellamdur chemical, which is developed by BASF company, and it is commercialized by them. Next, this is a technology which they are being using for treatment of this chemical. And then impregnation, and this is also Indurite is the commercial name, and it is developed in New Zealand, starch-based treatment, and it is brought by the Osmos company. And this is also regarded as wood into the wood, because the starch is also a component of the wood. So when it is wood is impregnated with the starch-based chemicals, this gives like a wood, modified wood, which is very good in different properties. This is an enzymatic treatment, whereas Lacasse is used as a main precursor, and wood active sites are being treated with this. So this is not commercially exploited, but this method is available for treatment of the wood, for wood modification. So that's it from my side, and maybe next speaker, Mr. Dr. Andy Pittman, will be talking much more about the wood modification, particularly chemical and impregnation wood modification. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shukla, for so much information. Now, next up, I would like to invite Dr. Andy Pittman from Lignia Wood to present on impregnation and chemical modification. Over to you, Mr. Pittman.
Thank you.
Dr. Pittman, are you? Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to find the presentation and share it.
Sure.
Okay, can everybody see the screen?
No, sir. Only we can see your name. Your screen has not been shared yet.
Okay.
Have you reshared your screen?
Oh, I'm trying to.
What you can do is you can try resharing it. You can try resharing it once again, because your screen is not visible as of yet. We can see you, but we cannot see your shared screen.
Okay. Share screen. Okay, I'm going to try and do it now.
Sure. Now we can see it.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to focus on two modification technologies this morning. The first is what is called impregnation technology, and I'm going to focus on a technology that involves phenol urea formaldehyde resin. And the second that I'm going to touch on is chemical modification. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the product Accoya, which is manufactured through acetylation. So a little bit about I think it's quite important at this stage, and thanks Metza earlier on for talking about the impregnation of wood preservatives, because both of the technologies I'm going to talk about require chemicals to penetrate through the structure of wood before the modification process can begin. And the reason this is important is these technologies are not suitable for all wood species. They're limited to those species that are permeable. So when Sanjay talked about thermal modification, it's important to highlight that that type of technology is suited to a much broader range of timbers. So wood modification's actually been around for a very long time. So the initial technologies, the science, dates back to the 1920s. So you have things like acetylation and thermal modification dates back to that period. And similarly, the resin modification dates back to the work out in the US by Stam back in the 1930s. So first thing is wood modification. It's a very broad, all-encompassing expression. It's the action of any chemical, biological, or physical agent on wood, which results in a desired property enhancement during its service life. Modified wood should be non-toxic under service conditions, and there should be no release of any toxic substance during service or at the end of life following disposal. Simply put, it's improving wood properties without the use of wood preservatives. And I think it's important to dwell on this. So modification has been adopted primarily in Europe. And the reason for this there were changes in legislation regarding the use of wood preservatives in Europe, which meant it was much more difficult to use traditional wood preservatives, so alternatives were sought. And this is why wood modification came into the market. So it was primarily driven in Europe and mostly from the Scandinavians, Germans, and French, who were particularly concerned about biocides. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to go to the next slide. So why modify wood? Well, the first thing is it improves durability, so it gives a longer service life for wood products. As Sanjay said, it also improves stability. The idea is it can reduce cupping, checking, opening of joints in windows and doors, and gives much greater coatings performance. Coatings will perform for longer on modified woods. For some modified woods, you get an improvement in mechanical properties, so it makes it stronger, harder, and more wear resistant. It can improve the appearance of wood, and Sanjay showed some really nice photos earlier showing how very blonde or light coloured woods darken with thermal modification, for example, and it can improve fire performance of wood. So by upgrading performance, we add value to more readily available, sustainable species, giving them new applications. So I'm going to talk about resin modification first of all. So what is lignia? So it's a modified product manufactured by impregnating and curing resin in wood to improve properties. Just a little bit about the process. So lignia is manufactured from high quality clear timber that's FSC certified. So this means it's all sustainably sourced. That's important for the customers because at the end of the day, you're providing a product without any preservatives in it, but you need to demonstrate that the timber is from sustainably grown forests. So there's a grade which limits things like knots, resin pockets, splits. So it means all the wood that's used is good quality. So these are the types of plantations the timber is derived from. These are radiata pine forests in the southern hemisphere. Fast growing, typically harvested at 30 to 40 years. So it's graded at the sawmill before export, and it's also graded at the plant. And you can see here the packs being prepared. So the pieces are being separated by sticks before impregnation with resin. So the resin used, it's a phenol urea formaldehyde, which is commonly used for adding flame retardancy to mineral wools, but it's from a family of resins that's also used to glue together exterior plywood. Okay, so it's a dark red brown liquid and it's soluble in water, and when it's cured, which is done through heating, it forms a solid, and the solid is resistant to heat and is no longer soluble in water. So we've touched on this morning, impregnation. It's exactly the same. Rather than using a wood preservative, we use a resin. And the idea is we aim to get the resin right the way through to the center of the wood. Following resin impregnation, the packs of wood are dried. Our kilns, we have weigh beams, so we can monitor the weight of the pack over time and determine when it approaches fiber saturation point. And some of the guys this morning talked about case hardening. So we also conduct lots of prong tests through the process, and we dry the wood down to a point where it's ready for cure. And similar to Sanjay's process, we heat the timber under controlled conditions. We monitor the temperature not only in the vessel, but we have probes that go into the center of the timbers in the middle of the pack to show that we've got up to temperature. And at a specific temperature, there's a reaction that occurs and the resin polymerizes and stays fixed to the wood. So you take the resin monomers, as you heat, you remove water via a condensation reaction. Then you remove some of the formaldehyde to form methylene bridges, and so you've got the phenol rings, phenols joined together by these methylene bridges. And for the wood chemists amongst you, you'll realize the structure of this polymer is not dissimilar to lignin. So how the resin modification works, this is still a question that we have a PhD student working on. We know some of the resin stays put in the lumens in the middle of the cells and cures there. So some water blocking might be a result of this resin. We know that some of the resin coats the interface between the lumen and the wall. And just to show here, once we've treated the wood and dried it and cured it, it stays in the swollen state, so it's bulked. So we know some of the resin ends up actually in the wood cell wall. And some early work way back in the 70s where they labeled PF resins with bromine and then looked at finding the bromine showed that it had penetrated the wall. So in terms of the thing that makes wood swell and shrink is as water accesses the hydroxyl groups in the cell wall. And we know that the nanopores can be 1 to 5 nanometers in diameter. We know the size of a water molecule is typically 3.4 angstrom. And we know that phenol molecule is a little larger, it's about 5.7. We know that some of the resin molecules actually get into the wall and actually get into these pores. And what actually happens normally with wood, the water accesses these pores and leads to binding of the water with the wood cell wall and swelling. With the PF modified wood, you'll notice the cell wall is somewhat thicker, it's bulked, and this means when water is added that you have less swelling of the wood. So let's look at the properties which are improved. Well, in India, you have the full range of decay organisms. You have termites, wood-boring beetles, and you have decay fungi, and you have an ideal climate for decay. So natural durability is very important. And typically, we use tests that are used to assess wood preservatives or timber durability. We've tested against the European standard and the American wood preservative standards, largely because those were the markets for the product. And against fungi, in both cases, it returned excellent results. It's very durable, highly resistant. So it's equivalent to teak heartwood. In terms of fungi, again, excellent resistance to, against termites, excellent resistance to termites. So you can see the southern yellow pine at the top before and after exposure to termites. This is the reference, which is preservative treated wood, ACQ, and below is the lignia. So good resistance to termites. In terms of dimensional stability, how it shrinks or swells, well, in Europe, we have a test which compares the combined radial and tangential swelling of wood when it goes from a high humidity to a lower humidity. And we measure the shrinkage over this difference in humidities once the wood is conditioned. And you'll see, here's an example of a small movement timber, teak or western red cedar. And these are the modified woods. So Accoya, Lignia, Kebony, and indeed the Thermo woods would sort of be in this range or in the medium range, but mostly in this range. So the improved dimensional stability is achieved. These are our rigs. They're 45 degrees. They face the sea. You can see this is a piece of lignia on the left. This is a piece of unmodified radiata pine on the right. You can see the discoloration by the mold growth, and you can see splits in this piece or checks. And similarly, if we look here, this is the lignia, this is the unmodified wood, and you can see the difference. You can see the cupping there compared to the lignia. Mechanical properties are greatly improved, so it's harder, so it's comparable to a hardwood. So this is pine following the resin impregnation, comparable to hardwood, something like oak. Similarly, when we've done mechanical testing, we've seen improvements in stiffness and breaking strength. And this is quite important, and Sanjay showed some lovely slides earlier, because our process not only impregnates with resin, but there's heating, and the heating is sort of around 150, 160 degrees centigrade. You get some darkening of the wood. So this is a section through a piece of lignia, and you can see the color runs through the section, and this is planed off. So you can see it resembles more a tropical hardwood than pine. One of the unusual things with resin modification with PFs is that it actually gives some color stability. So whereas the thermal modified or acetylated woods outdoors grey relatively quickly, this is not the case with resin modified woods, which tend to retain their colour for far longer. So on the left here, this is unmodified pine. This is after, I think it was 3 months. So you can see it starting to weather. This is lignia before and after. So it does, it changes colour, it darkens down, but you see it hasn't started to grey. So that's the resin modification. And I know because your colleague in India who dealt with acetylation wasn't available, I'll just touch on Accoya. So Accoya is the modified wood that's probably been on the market the longest and gained greatest market traction. So it's been around now for around 20 years, extensively tested, and it's been in service on many projects around the world, including some in India, I know that. So the wood is impregnated with acetic anhydride. So this is the wood, and these are the hydroxyl groups. The reaction, we have acetylated wood, which basically no longer wants to bond with water. Again, let's have a look at some of the properties. This shows how much it improves the stability. So these are radial and tangential shrinkage and swellings. These are unmodified woods over to the right. So you can see teak, which is prized because of its stability, has a radial shrinkage of 2.2%, tangential is always a bit more, 4.2. These are the modified woods. If you look at a coir, so here it's far more stable than teak. It's about a third the shrinkage and swelling of teak. I've put in Plato wood, which is a thermally modified wood, and you can see that this is better than teak, but it's nowhere near as good as a coir. So this was in the same test. So what does this mean? Well, it means coatings last for a lot longer because you haven't got the shrinkage and swelling of the wood. You don't get minor fissures in the coatings which allow access of water and coatings peeling. So these are test samples. The one is unmodified, the other is acetylated wood, the same coating exposed for the same amount of time. And you'll see that the unmodified, you've got fungal degradation and you've got the coating failing. And these are projects coated with, so they're both a coir, and you can see the paints, they can be stained or painted with a full coating. One of the most interesting things that a coir have done is they've demonstrated that their modified wood can be strength classified. So it's given a strength classification once graded. The process doesn't degrade the strength, so it retains the strength. And it can be laminated together to form large pieces. And this was a project, this must be 10 years old now. This is a road bridge in the Netherlands. And the structural members are laminated a coir. So this shows what can be done with this product. And this is called the Haven. It's a building on the east coast of the UK. So a coir is used for the decking, for the facade. And again, it's expected to give at least 60 years service life. One of the interesting things with a coir is it's suitable for use in ground contact. So these are coir fence posts, and it's suitable for use in contact with water. So this is a canal lining in the Netherlands. Soon to be completed is a factory in the UK which acetylates wood fibres for the manufacture of MDF. And this has already been done at pilot scale. So this facade here is not plywood, this is MDF. And because the MDF is acetylated, it doesn't shrink or swell with water. And most of you know you wouldn't normally use MDF where it is susceptible to wetting and drying. But this is on a pharmacy which is on the west coast of Ireland. And Ireland is a bit like the monsoon in India, but without the warm weather. So it's very wet. And it's a really truly stable panel product. So this will, we expect to come onto the market within the next few years. So that's a summary of the impregnation and one of the chemical technologies. I'd like to say that the products perform well. So they give long service lives. One of the things we're seeing in Europe now is a requirement for reusing construction products once they've ended their life. So in other words, timber products are going to be repurposed and reused. as part of what we call the circular economy. This is a good thing because it keeps CO2 locked up for longer. So it's where timber comes into its own, but we require the timber to be free from preservatives so it can be reused for any end use. So that's the latest from wood modification. I'd like to point out that Lignia Wood Company, so the resin modification, was bought by Axis, who own Accoya, earlier this summer. So we're seeing lots of changes in the industry as well. Thank you all for listening. It's been a real pleasure being invited by Dr. K.K. Pandey and the Indian Institute of Wood Science and Technology. Yeah, I wish you all well there, and I hope the weather is warmer than it is in the UK at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pittman, for sharing all the insights. Now moving towards the end of the session. Actually, I would say that this was an amazing, knowledgeable session, which we are certain all of you would have thoroughly enjoyed. I'm opening up the panel for any questions, recommendations, and feedbacks from the speakers and participants. So if you have any queries, or you want to ask any question, or you want to give any feedback, the panel is open for discussion. After this, we will go towards, move towards the vote of thanks. So anybody with any query, any feedback, you can raise your hand, or you can simply unmute your mic and talk about it. The panel is open for discussion here.
Hi, Mansi.
Hi, sir. Hi, Anil, sir.
I have put my questions also. I need contact detail from Mr. Sanjay Goyal. So I need some more detail on Thermo so that I can contact details, for commercial viability. So please share the detail on my email.
Mr. Sanjay Goyal, if you're here, please unmute your mic, and I guess Anil ji has asked you a question. So.
Hi, this is Samad Goyal, Sanjay Goyal's son. I've shared the contact details in the chat, in the chat group. So Anil uncle, you can refer to the message there. The number is there.
Thank you very much. I will take it from there. Thank you.
If anyone has any other feedback, any question, or you want to share your thoughts about this whole session, you can come forward, and we have the panel open right now.
Well, Mansi, I have a question to Pittman.
Sure.
If possible, I would like to get his reply. He's talking about the impregnation of wood by PF resin.
Mm-hmm.
And do you do this under the vacuum, and what type of pressure actually is required actually to ensure that wood is completely impregnated with PF resin?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The impregnation cycles are exactly the same that you would use for wood preservation. So it's a sort of minus 1 bar vacuum plus 12 bars of pressure, hold time of a few hours, and then draw a vacuum at the end. So it's exactly the same as conventional wood preservation, which is why I explained that you require species that are readily permeable. So the technology is not suitable for refractory species because we can't get the resin into the heartwood of pieces.
Okay. And then what should be nearly the viscosity of PF resin actually, which is suitable for?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's low viscosity, so it's diluted with water to a solids content of around between 15 and 30%. So it's low viscosity. It's no different to a wood preservative. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
If there are any other recommendations, any other questions, or any other discussion that any of you want to do here, the panel is currently open. So anybody from IWST, if you want to throw in some more information, some details, or share some insights about the industry that we have here in India, so that would be great. Anybody with any question, you can raise your hand and you can ask your question right away. Sure, sir, you can ask.
This is regarding the wood preservation.
All right.
See, we have been using certain combination of chemicals like CCB, ACC, and all sorts of chemical. And during the process of treatment, it has been observed that there is a selective treatment, selective absorption of the chemicals. The chemicals which are initially made in certain proportion, after I think treatment, it is not sure that same proportion the chemical has gone inside the wood or not. I think IWST should undertake such a study to ensure that durability of wood is actually achieved to the fullest extent. And this because several times what has happened actually, see, for this marine plywood, recommended preservative treatment is about 17 kg per cubic meter. And in that 17 kg, the chemical proportion has to be as per the actual concentration which was prepared in the beginning. But after the treatment, what we see that copper is only present in the wood. And as per IS specifications, if chemical is whatsoever chemical is present and if total sum is around 17 kg per cubic meter, then it is it conforms to the BIS standard as per existing standards, and that also therefore need to be modified in future. And this can be only done unless and until some study is undertaken by the IWST. That is my suggestion.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pandey. I think nobody.
Yes, sir, we will look after your suggestion. We will undertake this problem, whatever you have told now. Definitely, we will come with a solution, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Singh.
So thank you so much, everybody. Now is the time to share the vote of thanks. So for that, I would like to welcome Shree Ritesh D. Ram from IWST Bangalore on screen to share the vote of thanks with us.
A very warm and cherished afternoon, one and all attending this webinar. On behalf of Director IWST and the entire Wood Science team, I extend my sincere thanks to all the delegates and industries sharing their valuable knowledge. Today, we had the opportunity to hear from Dr. Anil Kumar Shetty. His presentation has shown us the importance of seasoning for producing good quality products from even the plantation grown timbers and for preventing the wood wastages. I need to mention my deep and sincere appreciation for Shri Sanjay Goyal ji, Dr. C.N. Pandey sir, Shri Anil Kumar, Shri Dwarka Ram Krishna for their experience sharing and giving us an industrial perspective on importance of timber seasoning. It has been suggested to make wood seasoning a compulsory practice for all wood manufacturers in India with some kind of enforcement so that the wood can be used in an optimum way and wood wastage can be avoided. I would like to thank Mrs. C. N. Vani for sharing valuable information on wood preservation technologies. Your knowledge sharing has emphasized the importance of wood preservation for increasing the service life of less durable wood and for using a suitable preservatives and appropriate methods of wood preservation. A special mention to Mr. Sanjay Gorai and Mr. Anil Kumar for giving the Indian industrial perspective on importance of wood preservation. I would like to extend our sincere thanks to Dr. Ashar Shukla, Scientist in Institute of Wood Science and Technology, Dr. Andy Pittman, Director Lignia, and Sri Sanjay Goyal Ji, Jai Bhavani Plywood, Sikandrabad, for their presentation, for presenting their experiences and knowledge on different wood modification technologies and its application in different wood sectors, including building construction. This type of event cannot happen overnight. The planning and its execution starts long ago for its flawless and smooth conduction. A special mention to Dr. K.K. Pandey and his team, who are well versed with their job and organized this webinar so nicely. Thank you, sir. And we would like to acknowledge our gratitude to Ms. Madhu and Ms. Mansi. They are from Ply Reporter, who are the co-host along with IWST in conducting this webinar. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to record my heartfelt thanks for Dr. MP Singh, Director IWST, for his support and guidance for organizing this webinar. I thank one and all attending this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ritesh. Thank you all for joining us today. Wishing you all a great weekend and a very happy Diwali.
Yeah, thank you everybody for being with us for so long. Thank you.